We're live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall419, the man with the million, back again with another episode, which I think we're on episode 153. Can't believe we've been doing it for like 153 weeks. Although it's probably a little bit longer than that because sometimes me and Jez do have to skip. But anyways, welcome to the Xbox 2 podcast. Big week here. The launch of the Series X as well as the PlayStation
live.
What is going on, everybody? And with me, as always, is the one, the only Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, friends, and hello, Rand. It's been a week of work and graft. Thank God it is Friday. I am so ready to just lie down and die. Let's just go there.
Has it really been that bad for you? Is work putting stress on you?
Launch
Have you been
week,
writing
man.
a ton of articles like for
launch week?
Like
all
the best tips for Xbox Series X, 5 hidden features Microsoft isn't telling you about. Like, are you right, guys, writing those type of stuff?
You should be a blogger. No, it's mundane things like, how to turn your Xbox on. Well, not like that. Well, I bet you if I wrote that article, there'd probably be a lot of people who.
You should write that article. How to turn your Xbox Series X and S on. Yeah. See the little button on the front? Press it to turn on.
Mostly, it's the traffic's been crazy. It's mostly just updating old guides. Like, parents want to know how to lock their consoles down for their kids and monitor what they're doing and block purchases out. How to find your screenshots and stuff. And I tell you, it's weird. The traffic's really up because a lot of it's new users, people who are completely new to Xbox, which was reflected in Microsoft's announcement about the sell-through of the console. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's what the Series S was going to appeal to, was people who weren't a part of the Xbox ecosystem and people who, outside of being completely new, were maybe a gamer who wouldn't necessarily jump in for a couple more years or a few more years because the prices are too high. That's why I always kind of looked at some of those, like the hardcore gamer that always kind of talked down about the Series S and complained about like the storage, how much space the storage has, which is something that is going to be concerning as time goes on. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is 140 gigabytes of space on the Series X, even though you can uninstall certain sections of the game like the multiplayer and Dead Ops Arcade and Zombies. It's still like you're talking 140 gigabytes of 365 or 800 gigabytes or on the PlayStation 600. So the storage stuff is a concern, and then the whole resolution. It's like the people who are getting the Series S don't care about 4K. So what does it matter if the game's in 1080p or 1440? That's why I didn't really like jive with their criticisms. It's like, you're a hardcore gamer, like you're gonna get a Series X. The Series S isn't for you, so why don't just keep it moving, right?
Yeah, I think Digital Foundry did a really good review of the Series S, where they were focusing on the fact that it's like a Game Pass machine, and in that, if you're someone who maybe your primary console is PlayStation, or you don't game that much, or you don't have a 4K TV, or you just want to buy a cheaper console for your kid or something, the Series S is the perfect console for you, So yeah, it's just been interesting how much traffic has been from new users.
Yeah,
but it's cool to see, growing ecosystem and all that.
Yeah, and we're back on a Friday as well. Imagine that. Last week on a Sunday, a rare Sunday appearance. And then the week before on a Saturday, we're back on the regular day Friday. So we appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Got to give a shout out to everybody in chat, like Dr. Vortex, Gunstar75, John Collins, Blue Moon, FC, Cold Will, The Geeky Nerd, Reprobate79, Stu Lindsay, everybody in chat. We really appreciate you tuning in on Friday. And if this is your first time here, there's no need to be shy. Make sure you say hi in the chat. Me and Jez will see it, and I'm sure our great community people here will welcome you to the channel and the podcast. So yeah. Gunstar says, was interesting to see the demographic and what they got what they got on pickup day at Game UK was fun. I'm really interested in seeing how many people that are listening right now got your Series X or Series S. If you're able to pick up one of those, type in the chat which system you were able to get, because I'm interested in seeing the breakdown. I would imagine, and we'll talk about this probably in a bit more detail when we break down the biggest launch, that the majority of the consoles sold for Xbox in those 24-hour periods was the Series X, right, Jez? Is that what you probably would guess?
Sorry, repeat that last bit again.
Like, when Microsoft talks about the biggest launch, which we'll go in more depth, but I'm kind of gonna I want a short answer from you. Like, just pick one. What console do you think sold the most between the Series X and S for those 24-hour period?
Man, it's hard to say because it ultimately depends on what the stock breakdown was, because everything's sold out. So if Microsoft manufactured more stock of the X, that would have outsold the S. And we have no idea what Microsoft manufactured more of or less of. So, I would have no idea. But presuming that there was a surplus of stock, let's just imagine that there was a surplus. You'd have to assume that the Series S would have outsold it purely on the basis of it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And purely on the basis of maybe there's a lot of people who would prefer PlayStation 5 first. But if they can't get that, maybe they get Series S and then get PS5 later when they can. I don't know. But I think Phil's been on record on some interview where he says that he expects a Series S to be the top seller.
Yeah, long term. But long term. Because just looking at, I know, anecdotal evidence, but looking here, the vast majority of people got the X. Some people got the Series S. And I think the Series S, at launch, when you're talking about super hardcore, I would imagine the X was the go-to system. And the S will be, the more sought-after system a year from now. Kind of like how... And I also think the price and how much Microsoft is probably losing has a lot to do with it. Just like you would imagine if you had the PlayStation disc version and the PlayStation 5 digital version available in the same amount of quantities, more people probably would have won for the digital version, right? Because it's cheaper and it's only a disc drive.
Yeah.
But because they're losing a ton of money on the digital version, they controlled how much they lost by controlling the supply by not making as much. And there are rumors that Microsoft is losing more on the Series S than the Series X. And if that's the case, maybe they controlled supply, and that's why there wasn't as many Series S's today, for launch, when they knew people would opt for the premium system. But either way, we'll never know.
It's funny because
we'll never know.
We never know, because the only way we can find out is when MPD gives their breakdown.
But they don't give sales figures anymore.
Oh, do they not? They only say who won?
Well, so it depends. If you want to give sales numbers, you can. Like they can say Nintendo was number one, right? If Nintendo allows them to, and then Nintendo will say, "Hey, we sold this amount." But you don't even really get the placements anymore from NPD. They just say so and so is number one, and it had this amount of increase or whatever, and then people kind of figure out what sales it did. But for Xbox,
they give they do give their hard figures to.
Oh, of course,
Microsoft,
anybody that pays for it, they'll definitely get the hard figures. But
how much does it cost?
Thousands upon thousands of dollars for a monthly report.
Can't you just use some of your YouTube millions and buy us the report?
Yeah, that'd
be
great.
We can leak that shit.
And then I get in trouble for leaking it.
Worth it.
Yeah, worth it indeed.
But if you were gonna leak one report of MPD, it would be this month's probably. But it's I don't know. I would hope that at least MPD would give us a breakdown of the estimated amount of sales percentage between the S and the X, because that's just kind of interesting.
I mean, no, it's incredibly interesting, but I don't think they'd be in position to do it. That'd be something Microsoft would have to kind of authorize or do themselves. I would imagine maybe we will find out, and I do think that is an interesting breakdown. Gang M Gang says, hey, thank you for replying to my DM on Twitter. Happy you got your PS5 as well, too, bro. Thank you. I try to reply to as many DMs as I get. I get a ton of them every single day, and I get a ton of Xbox Live messages. So I work through those DMs on a daily basis. So I try to get to everybody. Some people do like to troll me in my DMs. I've gotten a few recently where they're talking some smack. I don't reply to those, which is kind of, I don't know why they're talking smack. Face says, so far comparisons between the PS5 and Series X multiplats are pretty much on par with each other. Will this be a problem for Xbox? Will it be a problem?
Why would it be a problem when the consoles cost the same amount of money?
No,
so why would it be a problem?
Digital edition's $100 cheaper.
Well, maybe, but again, we don't know the sales breakdown.
True.
So like if we compare in both $500 systems, they're both $500. It's not like you're not getting your money's worth just because Xbox apparently doesn't outperform the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is kind of interesting that we went into the summer, Microsoft saying world's most powerful console, and then a few weeks before the launch, they removed world's most powerful console from its marketing.
No, they didn't. I mean, that was front and center during their launch stuff.
I didn't see it.
I saw it.
They removed it from the website.
I saw it all over the place in their marketing. Like
really?
I watched their streams and stuff. Like, yeah, they're like world's most powerful console. Well,
the thing is, like, I don't know.
Well, we've talked about this before. You've talked about this 6 months ago. We both said and we both had heard that the SDK was coming in hot for the Xbox. It wasn't as mature. And you had talked about how they had switched over from GameCore to something else or something else to GameCore.
This is basically what I know now. Is that like they're switching over from ERA. ERA is the Xbox One developer environment to GameCore OS, which is more similar to PC. And the APIs for GameCore are closer to that of Win32. And it means that a developer making a PC game on Win32, Microsoft's platform, can leverage those drivers and APIs more easily if they're in GameCore on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. And I had assumed that there was only going to be a few games using GameCore at launch, but there's actually quite a lot. Watch Dogs Legion, Call of Duty, and Assassin's Creed, I believe, are all on GameCore. But I also had heard that their dev tools were immature and that it only hit version 1.0 when the Windows October update went out, which was also delayed. It was called October update, but I don't think it actually rolled out till November. So I don't know. It's I'm only getting fragments of the story, and this is like highly technical developer stuff, but it's kind of like will we see the performance delta grow? I have literally. Well, I mean,
these are all essentially launch games. These games weren't built for next gen in mind in the first place, so I wasn't really expecting to see any significant advantage on the power side for Xbox. And if there is a significant advantage or a delta or whatever, I think maybe it might start showing up 2 years, 3 years from now. When developers, when the GDK gets more or SDK gets more mature, when developers have a feel for the hardware, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think it hurts Xbox because, like you said, same price. What hurts Xbox, or what will hurt Xbox, is lack of exclusives. I mean, that's more than anything going to be the big battle. And, Phil's right that, he mentioned, and I know he got a little heat for this, being like, we don't really need launch exclusives. We're basically going to sell as many as we can sell, and it's all based on, supply and demand, and there's going to be more demand for the console, which is true, but I mean, obviously you want your games there to show up at launch. You know, you want Halo Infinite at launch. You want Starfield to show up sometime next year. You know, like you want more games, not less. So that the bigger issue,
It's all about like the image they're putting forward as well.
right?
Like
Right.
we were talking about it last week with Ubisoft, how like Ubisoft's built up this brand for themselves where all their games are open world and they do the same sort of thing, and then like they had this whole issue where their games have become like homogenous, and it's like Watch Dogs plays like Ghost Recon, plays like Assassin's Creed, plays like and they all sort of feel sort of similar. And that's become Ubisoft's brand, and Microsoft's brand right now, when it comes to exclusives, is abject failure. We got Crackdown
Well,
memories, Scalebound, Halo Infinite delayed.
it's more waiting to launch. Like their whole thing is like all the games are coming, but you're just gonna have to wait a little bit. That's
I'm just not. I don't like making excuses.
no,
For
I know.
them.
I'm just saying, but that to me, like the question, we're answering the question. The bigger issue isn't the power because it's the same
No.
price, right? The bigger issue is like the games.
Yeah.
I think that issue will be alleviated in a year from now, but that's the bigger issue that I'm focused on, like the system, and we'll talk about because we're gonna talk about like Assassin's Creed Valhalla running at freaking 60 frames on the Series X is sublime. Because we still got the games we're talking about and all that stuff. Like I'm still impressed with the hardware, and a lot of the games running on it run fantastic. But yeah, shout out to Gamerholic. Becoming the newest member of the channel. Appreciate that, my friend. Enjoy the emotes. James says, "What's up, lads? Thumbs up, great show." And Jess, thanks for getting back to me about the Razer headset. And Benji's Tank Top says, "Hey, Jez, why doesn't Xbox make games on popular third-party licenses like Sony and Nintendo with stuff like Spider-Man, MLB, and Pokemon? They used to make Disney games among other stuff earlier, but now it's gone." I would imagine it has to do with the cost of the license. Some of the MLB stuff Microsoft did have, if you remember back at the original Xbox, they had stuff like MLB, I forget their name of their MLB franchise, but they had their own NFL franchise and their own MLB franchise and all that stuff, even like their own tennis franchise. And I think part of the deal to get EA to buy in on Xbox was Microsoft stopping their sports franchises. I believe I've heard that somewhere or read that somewhere that was one of the kind of conditions to the deal because EA didn't support the Dreamcast. And we all know what happened with the Dreamcast. So Microsoft was very keen on getting EA to support Xbox, but EA's, whole thing was like Madden and all that stuff, right? Like all the sports franchises. And essentially, I think it was like EA's like, yeah, we'll support you, but don't do your sports franchises anymore. And then they all went away and EA was there. Now, maybe I'm misremembering or completely wrong. Have you heard anything about that, Jazz? I mean, I don't know. That's like a story I remember hearing, but I don't know if it's true.
I have no idea about that stuff. It's licensing another property is weird, and it's something Microsoft doesn't like to do. Like I heard that, like for example, the whole Warner Brothers thing fell through because the licensing Warner Brothers, whether Warner Brothers owns the full rights to some of its own IP, isn't clear because Warner Brothers have made a lot of these deals for like the rights to movies and comic books and TV shows and stuff before video game consoles even existed, before game streaming even existed, before subscription services even existed, which is one reason why we never got MechAssault on Back Compat, is because all the T's weren't crossed and the I's weren't dotted. There's like legal complications around all this stuff. So I think Microsoft has enough of its own IP to work with. I think like for their money, they'd rather try and work with something they already can fully own and control. Problem is, if you're working with someone else's IP, you kind of lose a bit of that control over what you can do, and there are limitations on what you can do. I bet you like EA working on the Star Wars franchise. there's probably like all sorts of, you know, limitations and borders they have to work around with Disney and the legal side and making sure the law is accurate, and if they do introducing new law they have to sign off on it. I'm sure it's a nightmare,
Yeah.
getting all that stuff lined up properly. So, and the fact that Microsoft can't even ship games very well with Halo Infinite and Crackdown and all the rest of it. Do we want to introduce more complexity for them? Baby steps, eh?
Jez is you don't sound very happy with Xbox right now for whatever reason.
I'm salty about Xbox Game Studios, man. I just can't believe. I can't believe no one at Microsoft saw that gameplay and thought we shouldn't show this. I'm sorry. I don't know. Incredulous.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the conversation we had about Halo Infinite, but we beat that thing to death. We're not going to go back into it anymore. You even said that you didn't want to go super negative about it in the pre-show.
Yeah.
So, and here you are going super negative about it. Come on, Jez. Come on, Jez.
I got faith. I mean, I thank God for like Hellblade 2 and thank God for Bethesda. But what 343? What are you doing?
Shout out to Ryan Scott becoming the newest member. Hope you enjoy your emotes, and thank you for supporting the YouTube journey. All right, so we got a whole bunch of topics to talk about. Xbox's biggest launch, their look for more studios, the whole vape gate stuff, Call of Duty issues on the Series X, my impressions of the PlayStation 5 from the time I spent with it. It's going to be very interesting. But we're going to talk about what the games we've been playing, as we always do. And obviously games are the reason we do this. And, we've been playing a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to tell you a game that I've been playing, okay? And we're going to start off by going from pretty bad to like really, really good. So I bought and I played Bright Memory on the Xbox Series X. Because it was like, hey, you know what? $6 ain't so bad, right? $6 game, the next gen, no problem. Bright Memory Infinite looks pretty cool, right? Like, even though it's not coming out the next year. Woof. Like, wow, what a horrible game. What a horrible game. No wonder it's $6. I beat the game in 25 minutes. It definitely feels like a demo for a much larger game. That much larger game that they're making sometime next year needs to be way better. Like, the game doesn't look great. It almost reminds me of like a 360, like an early Xbox One title. I don't think it looks very good. And the biggest problem for me is it plays pretty bad. Like, I was kind of just sitting here and I was like, oh man, this isn't very good. Like, I don't know if anybody else has played. Have you played Bright Memory?
Yeah, I have. I completed it too. I kind of disagree with you about the combat though. I actually like at first I was definitely like, what the hell is this combat? Then I sort of got into it and I sort of like, got the cooldown of the melee in my muscle memory a bit and the dodging. And then I started kind of liking the combat. And I started like aerial juggling the mobs and stuff, and you can jump up in the air, and if you're slashing while you're in the air, you stay suspended in the air. If you're slashing down, like the force keeps you propelled up in the air, and there are some really cool ideas in it. But it's like you say, it's $6 and it's 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, and every aspect of it is like a D minus grade.
Well,
like
I mean, it is also a game that is made by one person, and there were some even
one person?
It was one guy made the game, so I'll cut the guy some slack, right? One person making the game,
fair enough.
I'll cut him some slack. I'm still looking forward to Bright Memory Infinite because that trailer looked really good, and maybe the gameplay is more fine tuned. And there was even some like accusations that essentially like he stole some assets or whatever. But yeah,
I certainly got that sense that like the bonfire lit font for the Dark Souls Easter egg that went a bit further than a homage, and looked almost like he'd lifted the font and all that stuff. Which, by the way, fonts are also copyrighted. So I think, but that should have been free. If that's like your playable teaser for Bright Memory Infinite, and you're charging $6 for it, hey, yeah, $6 isn't a lot of money, but it's like, it's just so strange to have like a $6 20-minute long demo. I tell you something, Rand. The demo for Dragon Quest 11 is 10 hours long.
Wow, 10 hours?
And it's free, and you can transfer your progress to the full game. And then you compare that to Bright Memory, and it's like, seriously? I don't know. It's just that was just a very strange game. It reminded me of Soda Drinker Pro, where I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, what the hell? You know?
I mean, there are some there is one aspect. I like the air juggling. I thought that's cool. Like, you can use the abilities, pop them up in air, use your sword to hit them, shoot them. Like,
the gunplay felt tight too.
I like that aspect of it, but I'm still looking forward to seeing what the actual game is. Like, $7 for a 20-minute demo. Like, that thing should have been free. Like, it should have been a free demo, and not something that you paid for, in my opinion.
No,
but going on for much better from that was I played Yakuza Like a Dragon. I put about 6 hours into it, and I've never really played a Yakuza game before. I tried playing it for Yakuza 0 for a few hours before, and I just couldn't get into it. But this game is wild, dude. This game is just so out there. It's so crazy. And I played some of it with the Japanese audio with English subtitles. Right, but then I was like, I wonder what this would be like in English. And I gotta say, the English voiceover is actually really, really good. I
was impressed with the English voiceover, and they also they reanimated the lips so the lip sync doesn't look off, which is something that a lot of these games don't do when they do the dub, and it looks kind of weird. But they did all the lip syncs again, and yeah, the American voiceover was surprisingly decent. I still play in Japanese though because I'm a man of culture,
Right. The Living Flame says it's not stolen assets. It's the Unreal Engine asset store. Also, Bright Memory was supposed to be episodic, but he decided to make the rest of it one game instead. Well, thank you for the clarification. So, I definitely there's so many games here to play, right? And I know Yakuza Like a Dragon is supposed to be some 50-hour game, and I'm actually now putting it on my radar where when I get finished with a lot of the stuff, I want to kind of immerse myself into this universe. And I actually kind of like the JRPG setting because the previous Yakuza games were all they were like brawlers. Like the combat is like a brawler, and then you would do run around the town, and the story is very cinematic. Well, this one, the story's still really cinematic, and it looks great, and it runs really good. I think I was playing it in the 1440p 60 frames mode on the Series X, and maybe it's not a game that needs to be in 60 frames, but screw it. I'm all about that non-filmic life, son. I'm all about them 60 frames. And the game still looks great, even at 1440p upscaled. But I actually kind of enjoy the JRPG aspect of it, of seeing, the fights go down, you pick your attacks and stuff. And it's been a while since I've actually played a proper JRPG. And so it's I know I've asked my buddy Gopher, who is big into Yakuza. He's played them all, right? And I'm like, can I play this without ruining the story of the other ones? Because Yakuza 1 through 6 is kind of one singular story. He said that you can't, this is being presented by Sega as a soft reboot for the franchise, even though there are some characters from the previous games that show up here, and it might spoil some story beats from the other games. But I gotta say, I'm really impressed with this Yakuza Like a Dragon, and when I get through everything else, I will definitely be. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to it because there's so many games coming out, but the story really grabbed me. I thought the story, and then in conjunction with how well the voice acting was done, combined with the world and the JRPG elements, and how the like flashy the attacks were and just how ridiculously over the top the main character is. I thought it was fun, and I want to continue to play it.
Have you unlocked any summons yet?
No, not yet.
Oh my god, man, the summons! Like, because I had a press demo in the preview program for the Xbox Series X, and it puts you like a few chapters forward, so you've got like way more abilities and stuff. And like the whole premise of the turn-based combat is that the main character Ichiban is a Dragon Quest nerd. He's obsessed with Dragon Quest. So when he's fighting, he's like imagining that his life is a JRPG, and that's the premise for the combat. And later on, you start of like I won't spoil it or anything, but later on you do meet characters that sort of they become like a backup for you, and you can call them on your smartphone, and they summon in. But the summoning animation is hilarious. Ichiban like whips his phone out and starts spamming the call dial like karate dialing tones, and then like just crazy stuff comes off, and you get this massive cutscene where just these ridiculous abilities happening, and it's all in his head. He's like imagining, all this stuff going on. It's just so well done, and then you have all this wacky stuff, and then all of a sudden, it goes into these really emotional, dramatic, long cutscenes that like almost like a TV drama. It's just the wildest franchise, and I'm so glad it's come to Xbox because I would never have discovered it otherwise.
Yeah. Dwayne Anderson says Demon's Souls PS5 at launch is sitting at a 92 on Metacritic. This is what Xbox must deliver this gen Game of the Year contenders. I'm bored of this power talk. Well, I mean, we hardly ever talk about the power because we're not tech guys, and that's Microsoft's whole marketing angle is 12 teraflops and the power. I'm more concerned about great games like you, so I want Fable to be...
I agree with him. I'm bored of all this power stuff. I'm bored of the 12 teraflops. Where's Microsoft's ability to deliver games? But I'm not going to go on about it again.
I mean, hey, I want Microsoft to make game. I want Halo Infinite to be Game of the Year contender. I mean, I think Ori 2 was a Game of the Year contender. Last year, I thought Gears 5 was good enough to be a Game of the Year contender. That's what I want for Microsoft too. I want Avowed to be amazing, and Fable, and I want State of Decay 3 to be a huge step up. That's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I hope will happen. Spooky Sprocket says, "Hey, Randy Jez, huge fan of the show. Appreciate what you two do each week. Got my Series X and it runs smooth, looks gorgeous. Been enjoying Valhalla." Man, I'm happy you got your Series X and you're enjoying Valhalla. That game is something else, man. Gamerholic 115 says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, big fan of the show. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a Series X, but still picked up Yakuza and COD. Thanks for the great content." Well, thank you for supporting the show. It means a lot to us. So says this. So that's 2 games I played: Yakuza Like a Dragon as well as Bright Memory Infinite. I've also been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I have about 5 or 6 hours in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I am really, really impressed of how the game performs on the Series X. Like, I'm not. I don't think like
I'm not.
I am, because I haven't had any issue.
You go first.
But then, okay. So here's the thing. Keep in mind, I have an LG CX OLED. Keep in mind, I also can takes advantage of variable refresh rate. So while I know that there is some screen tearing for people who do play Valhalla, I don't get any screen tearing. Like the way the game performs is pristine on my TV. So I'm sitting here playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and it looks gorgeous. Like, I think the HDR is really good, and it just feels incredible to play at 60 frames, especially when you compare it to like Odyssey at 30. This is kind of what I imagine next generation to be, was these animations and the frame rate of something of any game you play basically being 60. It's like when I finally was able to play Valhalla the night it actually opened up, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is kind of next gen to me. And, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is bloated, and there's so much to do, and there's so many things to explore, and there's so many icons of the map. It's your typical Ubisoft game. But we'll see how the story progresses. But honestly, like, geez, like that game looks impressive and it runs so freaking smooth on the Series X that I am very, very impressed by Valhalla. Now, Jez, since you don't agree with me, this will be the negative Jez episode. You're not liking Valhalla, I take it, huh?
No, because I don't have variable refresh rates, and I don't have FreeSync, and it screen tears like a motherfucker on my TV. And there's no VSync option, so I just have to deal with it. Thanks Ubisoft. Thanks next gen. So yeah, that's my Assassin's Creed Valhalla review.
Yeah, man, you did say you were salty, or you had buyer's regret when you bought your TV, huh?
Yeah, I bought the wrong TV, but they don't do FreeSync TVs at 43 inches. Like, I'd have to rearrange a load of stuff to get a bigger TV in here. I'm gonna have to look into it, I think. But it just kind of sucks for people who just straight up can't afford a TV that has FreeSync. And there are TVs that are sort of in the $400, $500 price range that do have FreeSync, but Microsoft never advertised the fact that you need FreeSync for next gen.
Well, I mean, obviously,
news to me.
Obviously, it's on the developers to put out games that don't screen tear, right? I'm lucky that I, bought the TV, and I made sure this was the TV I wanted because I knew it had, all the features. It supported 120 frames at 4K, so something like Ori 2 looks mind-blowing when you play that at 4K 120 frames, and it looks even better if you play it at 6K downsampled to 4K, right? So I bought it for that, and I knew it had all those options, like, the instant game response and the variable refresh rate and all that stuff. So I'm like, this is the TV I want that's going to last me, the generation. Where if there are games that come out, especially in the beginning of the gen, where Assassin's Creed Valhalla seems more like, probably a game that was designed to run on last-gen hardware. I mean, it runs at 30 frames, and I don't think it runs particularly well on the base Xbox One or the One S. It's 30 frames on the Series S, and I think 30 frames on the One X. But, like, in a couple years, like we mentioned before, when the SDK matures and developers are more understanding of how it works and they get more time with the hardware, maybe screen tearing happens less. But if it doesn't, like, it won't matter to me because I have the tools to negate that, so.
You have the YouTube millions.
I don't have the YouTube millions. I don't have the YouTube millions. Oh, man. Well, I'm sorry you're experiencing that with Valhalla. I mean, so
it's like the screen. Honestly, in Valhalla, the screen tearing isn't that bad. In bright memory, the screen tearing was so bad it made me feel sick.
I don't.
But bright memory,
I don't even have the screen tearing in bright memory.
But bright memory has VSync.
It does.
So at least I could turn that on. But Assassin's Creed Valhalla doesn't have VSync, so I get the screen tearing, and it's not really that bad, And I think since an update, it got even better. But like, it wasn't just Valhalla. Like Dirt 5, the screen tearing in Dirt 5 was so bad I couldn't play it. It was just unplayable with that screen tearing. Right. I don't know if they've fixed it since then, but I mean that was quite a while ago that I tried Dirt 5. But I just hope this isn't going to be a common thread now, where developers are just like, oh, everyone's got VSync now, FreeSync now. We don't need to bother optimizing for that. I mean,
I remember you telling me the story, and I don't know if you can say this on air. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, and maybe you kind of already know what I'm gonna say. But
I don't.
The story about Dirt 5 and how you fixed the bug. Because you remember how Dirt 5, when you had the preview system, Dirt 5 was screen tearing like a bitch, and then you complained to Xbox, and people at Xbox were like, huh? Because they're testing all that stuff on TVs with VRR, and they didn't know.
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Or something like that.
That was the point. Yeah, like everyone is testing. Everyone's testing these games on the best TVs, I guess. I mean, it's we're probably going to talk about the whole Call of Duty issues.
Oh yeah, we will. We're just going through the games because there's so many games that came out, and you got to talk about it, right? What's a gaming podcast if you don't actually talk about the games you're playing?
Indeed.
Trey Duke says Xbox needs their own version of Demon's Souls. Sony has Bloodborne and Neo. Come on, Microsoft, give me a Souls game. You know, one of the developers that I was kind of hoping Microsoft would acquire just to see the salt on the timeline would be from Software. Can you imagine if Microsoft was like, yeah, we bought From Software. I know they're owned by a different company, but like if that happened, you know, the Bethesda stuff was huge, but like if they had bought From Software and now like games like that were exclusive to Xbox, that would
FromSoft fans are hardcore.
Yeah.
But Phil did say that he played a fair bit of Elden Ring, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And he says it's like Miyazaki's like biggest game or something like that.
Most ambitious game, something like that. Yeah.
Mr. Joanna Dark says, Rand, I have a CX OLED. How do you enable VRR? I heard there was issues with VRR on CX. So okay, you need to make sure that your TV is updated to the most current firmware. I think it's like 03.11.05. Check it in your it's like in your accessibility menu or something like that. It's like when you hit the settings menu, it's in the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see an option for software update, and it'll tell you what version it has. Update your TV, and then what you have to do is you have to turn on the instant game response on the TV to be able to actually choose VRR on the Xbox. So when you have instant game response turned on the TV, variable refresh rate becomes clickable on the Xbox Series X settings. So that's what you have to do to get that to work. And the one and only Sin Vendetta says, I was wondering about the screen tearing because Bright Memory is the only game I played in the Series X a lot, and I have an OLED B6. So Jez is right about the V-Sync. I think it's off by default for whatever reason. You want to turn that on.
Yeah.
That eliminated eliminated some of it, but like I said, I also play with VRR on, so like I don't see the screen tearing.
I tell you, like one interesting thing about Bright Memory was the amount of settings you could tweak. Like when I first played it, I was like, man, I'm not happy with the frame rate, even with VSync turned on. So like I lowered I lowered some of the texture quality and the anisotropic filtering, and there was a whole bunch of PC-like settings you could tweak on Bright Memory. I'd never seen that before in a console game. So like that's GameCore OS in action, you know. Mm-hmm. That's GameCore, that it's got literally all the same driver features lined up that could be tweaked with the same code base or whatever. So like that's cool stuff if it's done properly. But that's just like the first example of a developer actually giving a console game full-blown controls over the visuals. And it was cool to see.
Yeah. DevTech says LG CX 45-inch has FreeSync. Indeed it does. And that's the... I think it's a 48-inch, though. I think that's the lowest.
It's a 48-inch.
Jazz, you just...
That's the lowest it goes is 48-inch.
Yeah.
I've looked. I've checked these things. Trust me.
So... After Valhalla, which, oh man, that game, how it looks and how it plays, oh, next gen, man. Can't wait to see what the next actual, like, Assassin's Creed looks like and plays like when it's next gen only, built for this hardware from the ground up instead of a cross-gen game, right? It's going to be so glorious. Like, I'm so excited, man. Like, Series X and PS5 this week, new generation started. Like, I got so many freaking games to play on both systems. Like, I have, like, choice paralysis where I'm sitting there and be like, what do I play? Like, on my Xbox, I got Valhalla, I got Call of Duty, you know, I got pretty much every launch game. I got plus to my back and pat stuff. I'm like, what do I choose? And on my PlayStation, I got Astro, I got Miles Morales. You know, I'm going to buy Demon Souls. Like, my buddy might buy Godfall. It's like, and then maybe even, like, something that, like, the Pathless looks interesting. It's like, there's so much to choose from. And it's like, what do I choose? And I have to set a plan. It's like, okay, got to do this. Because, like, can't really just spend all my time playing Valhalla for the next 50, 60 hours because what about Miles Morales? And what about Call of Duty? I bought all these games, too. It's like, there's too much. There's just too much.
I feel that choice paralysis. That's an interesting term. Like I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I've like got less choice than you, but I've still got choice paralysis because like I've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla and I'm enjoying it. But did you see my tweet earlier this week
about?
I tweeted that I don't want to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla until I've finished Odyssey, but then I haven't finished Origins either. So maybe I shouldn't play Odyssey until I've finished Origins. But
Oh
then I
yeah, I saw
haven't
that.
finished Syndicate either. So maybe I should play Syndicate before I play Origins. And it's just like I almost feel like I want to go back and finish Origins off before I play Odyssey, before I play Valhalla properly. But then it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be so Ubi fatigued by then that I won't even want to do it at all. So like right now I'm focusing on finishing off Watch Dogs' story. I'm kind of like ignoring all the side quests and just trying to go through to the end. Well, I've quite enjoyed Watch Dogs' story. Some of the villains are just absolutely horrific and makes you feel really good to murder them horribly. Like there's some levels in Watch Dogs where it's like, I'm not even going to stealth this. I'm going to bring an AK-47 and just kill everyone because it makes you hate the character so much. So that's cool. But I've also been playing the new Call of Duty round.
Oh yeah, I haven't started that up yet. What do you think about it? Are you playing campaign? You playing
Nope.
multiplayer? What are you playing?
I don't play
Zombies?
Call of Duty campaigns because they're so boring. Usually,
You're
I'll
boring.
give it a try. They're boring, man.
You're boring.
They're just boring. They're just boring. They're just boring. But I've been playing the multiplayer, team deathmatch, hardpoint, domination, and it's Call of Duty. It's just feels like Call of Duty. I'm glad there's no jetpacks and wall running and all that stuff. Didn't like that. Boots on the ground feels great. You know, it just feels like another Call of Duty. But you start playing it, and then it's like you get killed by helicopters and all sorts of stuff, and then someone gets a gunship, and it's just like, ugh. You just like then you're just being farmed, and it's just annoying. And some of the maps are really irritating. There's like this one map where it's like there's a semi-open roof, so you can't even use like a Stinger missile launcher to shoot down the helicopters because the missiles just hit the roof. But the helicopters can shoot through the building, and they just kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm.
So I'm still sort of like learning the maps and stuff. But you know, if you like Call of Duty multiplayer, it sure feels like Call of Duty multiplayer.
I mean, I'm interested in playing through the campaign. That's all I play these Call of Duty games for, and maybe Warzone. So I'll check them
I don't
out.
get it. I don't get it. If you why do you like Warzone but not the regular multiplayer?
I don't know. I just don't like the regular multiplayer. Never really have. Or I mean,
I don't get it.
I remember liking it in like Modern Warfare 1, but like not being that big of a fan of it. But you know, it is what it is. You know, I'll play the campaign, and then when they have the new map and they integrate it into Warzone for Black Ops, I'll probably hop back
Mm.
into Warzone. But I mean, I already put 200 hours into Warzone, and I don't see myself playing it, you know, a lot. So, Sin
I'm
Vendetta.
feeling Battlefield starved, man. I need a
Yeah,
new
we need a new
Battlefield.
Battlefield next year. Next gen only. Huge game. Probably back to like modern combat. That's gonna be great.
100 v 100. That's a
Oh, that'd be
rumor right
something. I think
now.
it's like 45 v 45 or something like that. I could be making that up. I thought I remember reading that
I don't
somewhere.
know.
Sin Vendetta says, Rand, I'll co-op Demon Souls with you. Ooh, an offer from the man who destroys all these Souls games. Interesting. Wilbo Gaggins says, pre-ordered the Series X only to find out that I had bought post-launch stock, so no Xbox for me. Hope it arrives by Christmas. Sorry to hear that, man. Soma King says, Samsung TV owners need to manually update firmware for the Series X. Respect to you both. Yeah, if you have a TV, make sure you're always on the latest firmware update, because that will definitely help out. It does on the LGs. Barricino, sorry if I said your name wrong, buddy, says, Sup, Rand, finally caught a live one. Well, we're glad you're here, bro. So, Trey Dukes also says, by the way, thanks for letting me know about trading in the One X for that $200 store credit. Gonna get my digital edition PS5 half off now. So yeah, I actually, I have my One S and my One X. I factory reset those, right? So if I trade them into GameStop, nobody's gonna have my information. And they took about 5 to 10 minutes to factory reset. I initialized my PS4 Pro, which is basically the same thing. Wipes everything on the PS4 Pro. And that took 3 hours to factory reset the PlayStation 4 Pro. So my idea is I'm essentially going to take all 3 of those systems over to GameStop and get, I think it's like 175 for the Pro and the X, and 110 for the S. And and then I'm going to get them both or trade. I'm gonna basically get Xbox money because that's where I'll be buying all my games. So
Money, 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 money.
hey, man, that's what happens
Money.
when you buy Oh, and we have also one I missed too from Aquaman. He says, sat down 12 hours waiting for the Series X in front of GameStop, and I have no regrets. Any news on when the Final Fantasy remake is coming to Xbox?
Mm.
None yet. I mean, I believe it's possible it could come to other platforms in April. It was like a year. Maybe Sony re-up the exclusivity clause. We don't really know. I mean, it probably come to PC for sure. Hopefully it comes to Xbox, but we'll definitely have to see. Now, a game that I'm surprisingly I have played a PlayStation game, which I'll talk about in my PlayStation 5 impressions a little bit later. But a game that I find myself playing surprisingly a lot of, even though I suck at the game, is Tetris Effect Connected.
Oh my god. I love that game.
I love this game. And
I'm gonna play it right now. You said that.
I suck at Tetris. Like I'm playing through the journey mode, and I'm playing on beginner, right? And you know how like there's like 3 stages or 4 stages in like a journey.
Yeah.
I'll lose at least once or twice. That's how much I suck. But like,
man, I need to teach you.
You need to teach me some stuff. It is so trippy. It has some of the best HDR implementation I've ever seen on a TV. And so like when you play it on the LG OLED, it's just I sit there and it's just like the colors and like the music and how everything is put together. It's
That's
one of those good. like just journeys you go through, and here I am trying to play through this game, and you know like how it goes to the music and then it'll bump up the speed, so you go from like speed level 1, which is like, yeah, this is really easy to do, and then all of a sudden speed level 8 and the blocks are falling super fast, and I'm like, hold on, I can't think this fast, and then like they all pile up to the top and I just lose.
Have you used the zone power, right?
Yeah.
On the right trigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was like, Tetris is another game that we had in the preview program. And I actually spoke to the developers of Tetris Effect Connected about it, and I said to them, I didn't know Tetris could be so emotional because like some of the levels like have got this like underwater theme, and they've got like all this really zen kind of music, and it just kind of makes you feel a certain way. As Tetris Effect is a really great game, and some of the competitive modes are like really cool as well. Some of if you watch online, you know, there's competitive Tetris esports, by the way.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
Yes,
they are insane. The people who play that stuff are just like crazy skilled.
So like
I don't know.
So I've only done the journey, and you know I'll do a few of those at a time. A couple of those really, because like it takes me a while to get through them, and then my eyes are shot. Like it's so bright and the colors are so vivid, and it's just like I get done and my eyes are just like, you know, like take a break, man, right? And I haven't even done any of like the online stuff. Like it has like a co-op mode where like 3 people can play together versus like a CPU and stuff, right?
Yeah, and it has boss fights.
Yeah, and then boss fights and stuff like. And it's on Game Pass, so like anybody can play it. It's on Xbox One, so like I find myself just enthralled when I play that game. Like it's so cool. And I know it's a game that came out on PlayStation last year and it's in VR, but like it's a game that I just find myself coming back to, you know, for quick spurts to play. So yeah, play Tetris Effect. Even if you don't like Tetris like myself, like I don't really like Tetris, or I shouldn't say I don't like it. It's like I think it's fine, but I'm not good at it. Like I suck. Like, and I legit say when I suck, I suck. I don't even know what a T-spin is, right? Like I'm good at beginner at the speed level 1, and then like, you know, like, and I still will lose because I'm just horrible at Tetris, you know? But it's like the visuals and the music are just phenomenal, man. DevTech says, a local GameStop delivery of the PS5s. The truck got caught in a flood during the hurricane in Florida on Tuesday. Every PS5 in the truck was destroyed. That sucks.
Rip.
I didn't hear about that. That definitely sucks for anybody who's, you know, bought those PlayStations. Beginner8127 says, FMK, Dealer, Colt, and Jez. So I guess, who would you F, who would you marry, and who would you kill? Dealer Colton Jez. Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble with this one.
Uh,
I'm
don't
not gonna
answer it.
answer that.
Don't.
I'm not gonna answer that.
Let's not go there.
Yeah,
It's too early.
it's too late for Jez for that. Um.
Uh,
So yeah, I got Observer, which I haven't played yet. I know you have a little bit, right? The Observer System Redux.
yes.
On the
Oh,
Series
actually,
X.
yeah, I've been playing that as well. I didn't play the original. I regretted it immensely because I am a fan of Bloober Team, but it was just one of those games that came out at the wrong time. I guess I was too busy or something. So I've been playing Observer Redux, and I'm actually playing it for review right now. I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere is just incredible. The world they've built, Rutger Hauer, voice acting, absolutely stunning. The performance is terrible. Um, it's goes down to the 20s sometimes. It looks gorgeous with all the cool lighting effects and really detailed environments. Like it's like the ultimate narrative adventure game, basically. With like super detailed photorealistic visuals and stuff. But the performance is just awful. But the developers said that patches are coming and stuff like that, and I reported some of the areas that I had most issues with. So hopefully that can sort some of that stuff out. But if you like cyberpunk horror motif detective games, Observer Redux should definitely be on your list. It's a really cool, really slick game.
Yeah, there's this. I mean, like honestly, I turn on my Xbox and I haven't even started the Falconeer yet. I haven't even started Watch Dogs Legion. That's like there's so much to play. I got that choice paralysis. So
Choice paralysis.
yeah, that's the stuff at least I've been playing. Well, I'm gonna talk about my PS5 impressions here in a little bit. Talk about the game I played there. Have you played anything else, Jez? Or you just want to let's just move on to...
Nah, let's move on.
Let's move on. All right. So if you
guys
guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, share this out on social media, and subscribe if it's your first time here. So we appreciate everyone that is here. And let's go right into those Call of Duty issues you were talking about, Jez. Because it's a brand new game that came out.
God.
It's a brand new game that came out yesterday or last night. It's obviously the biggest game, yearly franchise. I did notice when I pre-ordered it that there was 2 versions of the game because Activision is not supporting, they don't support smart delivery. So there's 3 versions of Call of Duty to buy in the store. One is for $60, which is the Xbox One version. There's a $69.99 version, $70, which is the cross-gen bundle, which gets you the Xbox One version as well as the Series X and S version. And then there's the Ultimate Edition, which comes with everything. The problem is, if you're on the Series X, you're supposed to download the Series X version, and they're not really labeled. It's labeled. If you actually look on it and click on it, it'll say, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Xbox Series X and S, and that's the version you're supposed to download. It's like 140 gigs. But if you actually don't check on it and you just see, oh, here's, maybe you bought the regular $60 version or you just weren't looking and you download the Xbox One version, it doesn't work so well in the Series X, does it, Jez?
No, it's broken. Straight up broken. Basically, simply put, if you bought the $60 version of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War for the Series X, you are screwed because that version doesn't work on the Series X as of recording. For whatever reason, Activision didn't test whether or not the backwards compatible version of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War would actually work on the Series S and X, and it doesn't. So for everyone who bought the wrong version, and buying the wrong version is really easy to do because it's not like the system warns you're buying the wrong version. You just assume that it's $60 because you've been buying it $60 for however many years, and muscle memory dictates that you buy Call of Duty for $60 and boom, you've got Call of Duty. But no, that's not how it works anymore. If you want the next gen version, you have to pay an extra $10 just for the privilege of a higher frame rate and some reflections, which is ludicrous, especially because the PC guys, of course, get that stuff for free. And if they didn't get it for free, there'd be an uproar. And Activision knows there'd be an uproar, so they screw the console gamer instead. Aren't they lovely? Aren't they a lovely bunch of guys? They are lovely, aren't they? Well, it is what it is. But this is what happens when you don't use quick resume. It's almost as if someone should have seen this coming, but apparently nobody did. So now it's all the people who bought the wrong version. You're going to have to either request a refund if you bought it digitally, which is also a pain, but it is possible to do on Xbox through the account pages and stuff like that. Otherwise, you have to buy the cross-gen bundle, which is $70. What a mess. What a total mess. Just because Activision, didn't want to use Microsoft's super convenient system that was, just easy for everyone to use. Why didn't they want to use it? I don't know. Bobby Kotick need a new yacht? Does he not have enough private jets in his fleet? I don't know.
You said quick resume, but I know you meant smart delivery.
Yes, I meant smart delivery.
So
it's later. I'm a sleepy boy.
Yeah, if you guys are playing Call of Duty on Series X, make sure you download the right version. I think it's going to be the version that is it has the bigger file size, but just click into the game and see what the title is. It should say Xbox Series X and S, and it should have that like logo in the left-hand corner, X and S. So if you do have the Series X, make sure you download that. xCloud is coming to Australia, Brazil, and Japan and Mexico next week. So they're trying to get xCloud out to everywhere as possible, as fast as possible.
Rand.
Yes.
Do you want to know a secret?
Tell me the secrets.
I've been playing xCloud on PC.
Oh, you've been playing xCloud on PC? How's that working out?
It's just the same as it is on mobile. It works. Plug the controller in. Big display. It's great. I'm gonna write about that tomorrow. So
when do you think that will hit for everybody? When do you think Microsoft will bring xCloud to the PC?
Well, put it this way: they're testing it right now in beta, and just like we sneakily got a look at the console streaming app before, we now sneakily have got a look at the actual full thing, and it just works exactly as you'd expect. And they are testing it right now, so I think it might be coming sooner than we think. So that's pretty cool and exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
All those low-powered PCs and like devices that just can't game, all those will now be Game Pass devices, which is just so cool to think about. But yeah, so that's that.
Well, that's good. Mahler X says Series X recognizes the SSD expansion card instantly. Will we see certain games released on smaller capacity SSD cards and be used as cartridges? I would say flat out, absolutely not.
No, that won't ever happen.
And I don't know if you guys saw, I posted on Twitter, but my launch day haul, since I already had the Series X, was I got the Shock Blue controller, which is really nice, and the X on the Nexus button, the Xbox controller at the top, actually glows up blue, Jez. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That is
the actual X one, like, because I game like in the dark, and I got my lights behind the TV just to kind of cut down on the glare from the lights, because the LGs do kind of reflect it pretty badly sometimes. And when you actually look at the light coming out from the Shock Blue controller, like that, the X itself is blue, and I'm like, I thought that was a nice touch. And then I bought the expansion card. I posted a picture of it. It's incredibly small, and it just plugged it right back into the back of the Series X, and it recognized it. And I have an extra 902 gigabytes because I was almost running out of space on the internal, and downloaded Call of Duty in all 140 gigs to the SSD. So yeah, space is definitely going to become an issue this gen. I already can see it. Hopefully, in a couple years, we get more manufacturers that build out many different types of storage solutions, whether it's 500 gigs or 2 terabytes or whatever. Man, can you imagine what one of those expansion cards would be if it was like a 2 terabyte thing, Jez?
Yeah, I think the price of the tech needs to come down as well. As far as I'm aware, it uses something called CF Express,
Mm-hmm.
which was developed for cameras originally. Um, I think. I'm not 100% on that actually, but I'm pretty sure it is. Um, and that is really expensive. The Microsoft's already brought down the price compared to what CF Express costed before by a significant amount. So I don't know if like it'll come down even further. But you have to think like back in the day, SD cards were like 1 GB maximum, and then the technology got better. There were more competing versions of it, and the price just came down. It just always seems to happen with this stuff. So even though like the prices are pretty ridiculous now, £200 for like what is it, a terabyte? Like I've already filled mine up completely. Um, the prices will come down.
Yeah.
You just have to put up with it for
And
now.
transferring is so fast. Like I think I downloaded Call of Duty or something to the internal, right? Because it popped up. It was like, this game needs to be on a faster drive because I have everything set to auto download on my 4 TB external just because it has more space. So I was like, all right, download that internal because I didn't have a lot of space. And then it downloaded, and I transferred it to the SSD, and it transferred 140 gigabytes of data in like 2 minutes, like 2.5 minutes. It was like ridiculously fast. How fast, how quick the transfer speeds are.
Aye.
Cal Tattoo says, "Hey Jez, just wanted to say a massive thank you. I saw your tweet regarding Cold War. My Series X runs fine now."
That's great to hear, man.
See, Jez making people happy. Love to see that. How many people did message you about the whole Cold War thing? A lot? Were you getting a lot of people messaging you about it?
I got a few. Someone messaged me like a search query that showed how many people complained about it. And I was actually playing Call of Duty at the time, and I was thinking, well, I'm not having any issues, so I wonder why everyone else is. And then like some people were saying in the replies, it's because you got the wrong version installed. And then lo and behold, did some investigating, and boom, it's because Activision didn't use Smart Delivery, and they didn't test whether the backwards compatible version actually worked on the Series X, S, and X or whatever. But I've also been told Microsoft is investigating, and Microsoft is in touch with Activision about it, and they're looking into solutions and stuff like that. It just really sucks for like people who, they spent a lot of money on a next gen console, and they're a Call of Duty fan, and they want to play this year's Call of Duty, and they can't because Bobby Kotick wants a new yacht or a private jet or something. It's just really annoying. Just really sucks. But hopefully they fix it soon enough.
Tharsman says, am I wrong to feel we got Sony to blame for the over the $70 price hike, given the reports that they were the ones pushing publishers for even higher prices? There was that report that came out that Sony was looking at charging even potentially more than $70. And
Really?
It could have been, yeah, I don't know if you saw it. It was earlier this week.
Who said that? What outlet?
I forget what outlet. Maybe it was Bloomberg. I forget exactly which one. But they're basically saying that they had internal discussions about maybe pricing it around like $80 or $90 for their games. And that they were in talks with other publishers about increasing the prices of their games too, apparently.
Wow.
And some of the other publishers,
I bet Microsoft pushed back on that.
Well, some of the other publishers were
very
very much like, no, like we can't do that. Like, so. There was that talk of like $70. Will that be the new next gen price? Because Call of Duty did it for, Activision did it for Call of Duty, and 2K did it for NBA. But there wasn't a lot of other ones. And then Sony came out and been like, yeah, all of our games are increased by $10. So now, like, I would imagine EA and Ubisoft, they will all eventually kind of just start releasing next gen games at $70 because Sony's leading the way.
Ubisoft Ubisoft already confirmed they're going to do that.
Well, no, they confirmed that they would. They confirmed that they wouldn't do it at least until Christmas, and that they would look into it afterwards. But I would imagine like Miles Morales is going to sell a crap ton at $70, and so will Demon's Souls, and so will all the other launch games. And it's just going to be one of those things that when the Xbox One and PS4 are cut off, and it's only the PS5 and Xbox Series gen, all the games will essentially be $70 from the big AAA corporations, because you won't have like a free upgrade that where if you buy the Xbox One version, you get the Series X version for free. So it'll all be $70. Now, they were smart not to go to 80, because I couldn't imagine people's reactions if it was $80, because already people were like, $70, come on. But if it was like $80, God forbid if they jumped up to 100 or something, like, ugh. That's good.
But it's funny because if they did that, it just makes Game Pass even more attractive.
No, that is true. But then I would imagine it would also cost more for Microsoft to get games into Game Pass if they cost more, like, at retail as well, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but eventually Microsoft's gonna have enough of its own studios to not need third-party
that's the whole point. Yeah, like they have all their own studios, so they don't have to pay. It's essentially exactly what Netflix did. Like, Netflix was licensing all this content, and they knew that it would, cost all this money, so they essentially had to make all their own studios, because you create all your own studios, you own every license for it, you can do whatever you want, and when you're licensing stuff out, you're beholden to the IP holder, and they knew that would become a big deal. And like now Netflix owns, like, I think more studios or something than anybody else in the world. And that's why Xbox, which we'll talk about in a minute, is still searching for more and more, because they know they need to rely more on their first parties than essentially third parties. Because third parties are always going to try to do their own thing. You never know if Activision or Ubisoft are going to try their own game subscription services, or maybe one of them does an exclusive deal with, Google Stadia or Amazon, and now those games can't be streamed on your service or be on your subscription service. And you can't rely on those things. You got to do it yourself. Trey Duke says, I'm already out of space on my Series X, man. Sad face. Yeah, man. The storage is definitely going to be an issue for a lot of people. Snazzy Crowd says, do you think we would have gotten our Series X pre-orders on time if Microsoft didn't give so many out early to YouTubers and publications? Oh, is that a shot at me, Snazzy? Because I got an early one. I think
you have to look at the maths, right? We're talking millions of consoles versus like hundreds.
No, probably thousands, but yeah.
Thousands to YouTubers?
I mean, YouTubers and publications and anybody that got it early, I would imagine it's closer to thousands than it is to hundreds.
You mean, globally, I guess.
Yeah, globally.
But even still, it's like thousands compared to millions. It's like, it's not really...
Yeah, some of those are on shipping times, and, COVID is still a thing, guys, right? Like here in Chicago... they're going into like a 30-day advisory, almost lockdown thing, where if they basically tell you not to go outside or go anywhere that you like, you don't need to go. It's like it's getting really bad, and that still affects a lot of the shipping stuff. So, and it's like Phil said, supply, and demand. That there's gonna be more demand than supply, and they're trying to get these as many as they can out from overseas and all that. There's a whole bunch of lead time, so I'm not surprised that there were some issues with stuff that was sent out. Judah says, still can't play Skate 3 on my Series X. Totally sucks. Every time I try to start it, the whole console just shuts down. Hope they fix it soon. There are some issues on the Series X that they need to fix, like Quick Resume is disabled for a bunch of games, which is unfortunate because Quick Resume is a cool feature, and hopefully they fix that soon. And there's some other things that definitely need to be kind of rectified. And Gunstar says, "Where's Crossfire X?" Definitely not coming out this year. Doesn't seem like it, at least.
No.
Maybe it comes out in December, but I think we would have heard about it by now if it was coming out in December. So that game probably got
coming out this year.
Yeah, it got pushed to 2021. Just like, weren't there also supposed to be a bunch of indies, like higher prestige indie games that Microsoft was supposed to launch, like Tunic and 12 Minutes and stuff like that were originally supposed to launch 12? Around the console, but like doesn't seem like they're coming anytime soon. Like even like Scorn
12
and like
Minutes
the
hasn't been yeah. So 12 Minutes hasn't officially been delayed yet.
So it could come out in December?
Yeah, like Astroneer came out randomly, I remember, in December one time.
So why does Skate 3 just not work? Is that an issue with the console itself, or an issue with the game or the license? Like, what's up with that, Jez?
Well, it just straight up doesn't work.
That's what he's saying. It just straight up doesn't work.
That's interesting. It should work. So I'm guessing that's some kind of issue.
Yeah.
DM me the details. I'll look into that if
Yeah,
you're on
Jez
Twitter.
is good looking in that stuff. So issues, right? Since we're talking about issues, Skate not working, Call of Duty not working. You want to talk about ping pong balls being floated up from the air that the Series X vent gives up, and like that whole vape stuff. You
Yeah,
said you had a story that you wanted to tell me before we went live, but you said you'd save it for the show. So I guess to set this
I
up,
can't even remember what
I
that
got
was now.
to set this all up. A couple days ago, there was a viral video that came out that people were experiencing hardware problems with the Series X. One of them being like the disk drive, which I fully believe. Disk drive seemed to be a sore issue for like almost every Xbox. I know like there's problems on the Xbox One and the 360 and the One X and stuff. I didn't test right now my Series X could have a defective disk drive, but I'll never know because I'll never use it. I'm completely 100% all digital, so it could not work. And people ask me that in questions like, how's the disk drive? And it's like, I don't have a disk to test it, so I'm not even really sure. So yeah, that stuff, isn't working, and I'm sure there's other issues as well. But the big thing that kind of went around was this whole Xbox system just blowing so much smoke out of the top of the console. And
Billowing like a volcano.
and it turned out to be vape smoke that people were just turning off the console, taking a quick hit of their vape and blowing it into the bottom of the Series X so that the smoke would get pulled through the system and then out the top to make it seem like there was something
Like fire.
defective or going on, or something like a fire on in the system. Like I every single time. Look, and like I said, I'm sure there's issues with the hardware. It's usually like in between 1 to 3%, both for Xbox and PlayStation. Like I've already seen people have issues with PlayStation of like the database needing to be rebuilt or something because of the rest mode and like games stopping and stuttering. Like I've seen people talk about that on Twitter. Seems to be issues for both systems, but like, man, the smoking Xbox though. What did you think about that, Jez? What did you think about like how a tweet comes out and like reputable like journalists and websites start like trying to get their articles ready so they can get them clicks. You know what I mean? And then like only to come out and have the official Xbox account come out and say, please don't blow vape smoke into the Series X.
I was like, at the moment I saw that, I was thinking, man, I don't even know if there's anything inside the Xbox Series X that would combust with that sort of plume of steamy, thick white smoke. So like, I thought it was kind of sus, straight away, right? So but then I looked into it a bit more, and some other people were suggesting that as well. And then someone just literally just got their vape out and tested it themselves. I think it was Xbox Studio on Twitter. They were just like, look, this is what happens if you do it with the vape, and it looks exactly the same. However, interestingly, there was that guy who posted the video actually gave an interview to a Polish media source, and he seemed pretty sincere. He's saying that he wasn't fake. So who knows? But I kind of feel like there's nothing in the Xbox Series X that would burn like that. But there are these big holes on top of the console, aren't there? So maybe something fell in there and caught fire. I don't know. I do think that at some point we're gonna get a story on Twitter of a little kid that pushed like candy or something through those holes, because kids do stuff like that, right? And it does seem it's an odd design to have something with very large holes at the top of it that you could slot things into, that things could fall into, that dust could fall into, and stuff like that. But it was funny how so many websites didn't even bother to do any sort of checking or due diligence. And not only that, but that whole ping pong ball thing as well. I got like loads of messages that morning, and they were like, "Oh my god, look, you can do this with your Xbox. It's so cool." I was thinking, man, I don't think there's enough airflow for the Xbox to actually do that, is there? So like, lo and behold, I got a feather out of my pillow, and the airflow wasn't even strong enough to move a feather. So it's kind of like, if you can't move a feather, chances are it can't move a bloody ping pong ball.
Yeah.
But again, nobody did the due diligence. Nobody even bothered to check. And all of these websites have Xbox Series X consoles in-house. You know, it just goes to show you can't believe anything you see on the internet these days. You just can't. So, you know, I'm expecting there to be similar sort of fake stories about PlayStation as well, like PlayStation's exploding and stuff like that. But it happens every year. Every time there's like a console launched. There's all sorts of stupid videos. I saw videos of people smashing up the Xbox as well.
Oh yeah, that's been a thing for years. Like you get the system at launch, and like I remember seeing one. It was like the launch of the console, and the guy was in line, and he bought one, and everybody else is still in line. He just comes out of the store and just destroys it immediately. It's like, oh, so you just spent all that money just to destroy it? Like that's a good, like maybe if you're a YouTube millionaire, like I'll buy the console and I'm going to destroy it and it's going to get millions of views so it pays for the console. But yeah, I never understood that. I never understood the desire to like smash it and post it like, this is how much I love Sony. Let me smash the Series X. Sony forever. Or like, the opposite of like, look at this. Look, I'm a true Xbox fan. PlayStation sucks, and smash up the PlayStation, right? So
it's just so sad.
It's sad.
Weird and plastic trouble.
And the thing is, like, I maybe understand it if they were like 15-year-old kids or something. But a lot of these guys doing this stuff are 40 to 50-year-old dudes who have like, kids and stuff and are married. It's like you're doing this stuff. You're doing the console war on Twitter and like legitimately believing this nonsense. It's like, grow up, dude. Like, Jesus. And it's like, I see it all the time. Like extremist Xbox fans and extremist PlayStation fans. It's really freaking weird, and I don't understand it whatsoever. I just want a game, man. I got so many games here to play. I have both these new consoles. I even have a freaking Switch. I even have freaking Google Stadia. I got it today for free.
So did I. I got Google Stadia.
I got Google Stadia for free. I have literally everything now. I have a Series X. I have a PS5. I have a Nintendo Switch. I have a decent PC, and I have freaking Google Stadia. Why do I have Google Stadia? Well, because I have YouTube Premium. And they're like, hey, you have YouTube Premium? Here's Stadia for free. And it comes with a Chromecast and the controller. And I'm like, sure, why not? Maybe they make a game that's exclusive that I want to play. Whatever. Same thing, like PlayStation. They're going to make some great games this generation. And I'm going to play them. Same thing with Xbox. It's where I play everything. Like, I'm going to play everything there. And if Nintendo ever decides to make a game I want to play that isn't Animal Crossing or some Pokemon stuff, I'll play that too. It's great to have choices. I don't know why people limit themselves to...
You completed Pokemon.
I did complete Pokemon, but that wasn't something I wanted to do. That was something I was forced to do.
You loved it.
But I don't know. I find that when you only have one choice, you feel personally attacked. So like you have people, like come and be like, Xbox has no games, and you're sitting there and be like, yeah, we do. We got tons of games. And like people will even come to me because I'm an Xbox guy, and they'll be like, you have no exclusives on the Series X, or we got Demon Souls and Miles Morales. And I'm like, buddy, I have both systems, and I have all that stuff. Like I have those games too, man. It's not some exclusive club that like you need to get invited to. It's literally a consumer product. Like you're not any cooler because you own a PlayStation 5 versus someone who owns an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand that mentality. And people like tout that shit. Like we got bangers over here. Xbox got nothing. And it's like I own everything, bro. Like whatever you can play, I can play as well. And I have more options to play everything. So who's the one who's essentially losing out here? Like, I don't get it, man. And it's just kind of rearing up because of launch week. You have both sides going at it with all the ridiculous bull. And it's just like, why don't you just get off Twitter and actually go play some video games for a change? Go play Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs or Gears Tactics or any of these games on the Series X. Go play your PlayStation if you love those exclusives so much. What are you doing bitching on Twitter or bitching here in the comments section? I thought you got bangers. Go play them. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, bro.
D-Rob
And
says...
it's all academic, because we all know the best game's World of Warcraft. And,
Yeah, for you it is. D-Rap says most people probably didn't update the Blu-ray app. 4K Blu-ray still no Dolby Vision like the One X. Yeah, well, I mean, I have no use for the Blu-ray app because I don't have any Blu-ray movies. Relis GT says, can Xbox Seagate SSD work on PS5? It's $185 at Walmart. No, I would imagine that is an absolute no. It will not work. Sin Vendetta says, maybe if Microsoft acquires From Software, maybe then we'll get a 60 frames patch for Dark Souls 3 on Xbox, which would be nice. I feel like somebody's going to try to convince me, like if I play Demon Souls and like it, and considering I loved Sekiro and I really did enjoy Bloodborne, then someone's going to be like, play Dark Souls 1 through 3, and I'm going to be like, no, thanks. You know what I mean? I don't really want to play I played Dark Souls 1, I didn't really care for it. DevTech says a repair shop on TikTok had a customer bringing his PS5 with a broken HDMI case. The guy's cat dropped it off off the shelf while connected. That sucks. That stuff does happen. I remember I had an 8 terabyte hub connected to my Xbox One X, and when I was cleaning around the system one day, I accidentally knocked it off and it fell down 2 feet, or it fell down like a foot, and it broke, and I lost all my games on that 8 terabyte hard drive. And I was very sad because that hard drive cost like $250. Danero says, bet you don't got new Amazon Luna yet. No, not yet. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily need hardware. It does got a controller. Never mind. Gaming Forte, my brother, says, just showing love. Glad to see everyone that matters enjoying their new consoles. Keep up the great work, bro. Looking forward to your PS5 impressions. And we will be talking about the PS5 here soon enough. So thanks for all the super chats and all the comments and people joining the channel. It means a lot. Let's talk about the Series X and the biggest launch, Jez, because Phil mentioned about it in a tweet, so that they sold more consoles in a 24-hour period in more countries than they ever had before. They even mentioned in their article today, which I'll bring up just to make sure that I'm quoting it correctly. Damn, I don't even... Oh, the biggest launch in Xbox history, all thanks to you. So they said more new consoles sold than any prior generation, with the Series S adding the highest percentage of new players for any Xbox console launch at launch, which is pretty impressive. More games played. There was 3,594 in total, spanning 4 generations, setting a record for the most games played ever during a launch. And 70% of Series X and S consoles are attached to new and existing Game Pass members. So those are the stats. So what do you think about that? Are you surprised that it's the biggest launch ever? Was this to be expected? Is it impressive to you? What do you think?
It's so hard to judge these things without having any raw data. And Microsoft just stopped giving us raw console figures because their KPI to investors now is engagement, which looks better in a spreadsheet than sales, which is going to be perpetually behind Sony when it comes to console stuff. But I mean, it's cool. Some of the interesting things are the Game Pass attach rate, 70%, apparently. That's really high, and much higher than I would have expected. So I don't know if that's because there's so many new customers and there's so many new people checking out the trial or whatever, and stuff like that. And also, like, Microsoft did allocate a lot of stock to places. I know this from speaking to people at Xbox, that Microsoft allocated more stock than usual to some territories, like Japan, for example, because they're trying to see if they can corner a new market with Game Pass and stuff like that. So it's just cool to see that Game Pass seems to be working. The strategy is not, going up in flames like some analysts predicted back in the day. And, all the armchair game CEOs who say Game Pass is costing Microsoft money, and then Phil comes out and says that it's already profitable, which, by the way, is not the rule of thumb when it comes to these kind of services. I don't think Spotify, I'm not even sure if Spotify is even in profit even now, after all these years.
Well, there's talk that Spotify hasn't turned a profit yet, or even something like Twitch. YouTube itself supposedly has never turned a profit. Netflix.
Yeah,
Netflix makes a lot of money, but Netflix is also heavily in debt. All that stuff,
Yeah, it's weird because Microsoft has an advantage over a lot of these companies in the sense that it has its own cloud. Like Netflix has these insane overheads from data bandwidth that it has to pay Amazon. Netflix literally has to pay Amazon for its own business. So they've got all this data overhead that Microsoft doesn't have because it delivers everything from its own servers. And the investment in Azure is funded by massive corporations who will pay Microsoft an insane amount of money to have the best cloud services. So, Microsoft has a unique advantage when it comes to delivering digital services that like Netflix and Spotify don't have because they don't have cloud infrastructure. And also like, especially in Spotify's case, they have to pay all these royalties to all these different studios, and Spotify barely makes any money on what it charges to pay for all this stuff. And then you have on top of that all the the bandwidth costs and stuff like that. Spotify is exploring like new revenue opportunities with podcasts and monetization, because potentially, like for example, our podcast is hosted with Spotify, and their podcast hosting service is called Anchor.fm. So if you are a podcast listening to our podcast, if you put your podcast on Anchor.fm, it will appear on Spotify because Spotify own Anchor.fm. And if you're in America and you're on Anchor.fm, Spotify will put adverts on it, and you can opt in to have adverts on it and sponsors, and Spotify will take a cut of that. Blah 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 blah. But like I say, Spotify has to jump through all these hoops to monetize its platform, whereas Microsoft just doesn't. So it's just cool that we'll look back on these days. I believe in the distant future, and all the so-called pro game journalists or whatever, they'll look back on this time similarly to how people look back on when Microsoft innovated with Xbox Live. Like you can't even imagine a world without Xbox Live now or PlayStation Network and all these platforms and stuff, which basically Microsoft pioneered with Xbox Live. We'll look back on these days similarly to how people look back on Microsoft's innovations with Xbox Live. And I believe Sony will basically emulate Game Pass. I mean, they've already started with that PlayStation Plus thing. What's it called?
PlayStation Plus Collection.
Yeah, that. So Sony will expand that out. That's not like a freebie or something. They branded it very cleverly. That's not like a freebie or whatever. That's their foot in the door to make their own Game Pass service. So all the companies that can copy this will copy this because clearly it's worked so well for Microsoft, and we just see where it goes. The missing pieces of those games.
So this roundabout answer that you really haven't said is you don't know if it's impressive or not. You basically kind of just went in a long-winded explanation and didn't even give an answer.
Well, the impressive thing is Game Pass. The attach rate on Game Pass. The rest of it is don't know what it means. I don't know. The most successful Xbox launch ever doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know what that compares to the Xbox One. Or the Xbox
so here's the thing. I said in my video, the Xbox One, Microsoft. This is when Microsoft was still announcing how many consoles they sold. They sold over 1 million consoles of the Xbox One in 24 hours. And at the time, I believe, yes, and that was the biggest Xbox launch in history, despite all the problems, PR-wise they had with all the stuff with the Xbox One. So yeah, it was 1 million units in 24 hours. So, but I think the Xbox One only launched in 14 countries. The Series X and S has launched in 40. It's obviously got a $500 version, just like the Xbox One, but also a $300 version. But we don't know the split between both of them. All they're saying is that it sold more. So it's anybody's guess. Was it just 1 unit more? Was it a million? Like, did they
Yes.
sell 3 million? Like, you don't really know. Like, I think it's impressive based on the fact of like this is still a year that has the pandemic raging worldwide. So like everybody is kind of working from home, and then you still have all the shipping stuff you got to do and the assembly lines overseas. And if we're being honest about the Series X and S, you know, launch lineup not the greatest. Nobody's really going to care about that in 2 years, but the X and the S aren't as needed as previous consoles. Like you needed the Xbox One to play Rise and to play Dead Rising 3 and to play what would be the next Halo. The Series X and the Series S are just pieces, are just one entry point into the larger Xbox ecosystem. Like you don't need to get a Series X to play Halo Infinite. You know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is on the Xbox One. Like all their games are on PC. Everything's going to be on mobile. So is like these games, these systems are essentially just one cog in the machine. So like I think when you factor that in and combine it with like COVID and stuff, I think them selling more is a pretty impressive feat for a console that, you know, doesn't have what you would call quote unquote any true exclusives like the PlayStation 5 does with Demon's Souls and, you know, some of their other games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Bloomberg's review was pretty telling of a complete misunderstanding of what Microsoft are going for here.
Of
Like
course.
they attacked the lack of exclusives.
Surprisingly,
You know,
Jason Schreier works there now. I wonder if that had any influence
I
on
think
the
he
reporting.
didn't he do their review? I don't.
No, it was the other guy, and that was basically when I read it, it was just like this could have been written by a console warrior, and it's like Sony makes way better games, and they love their studios, they grew their studios from this, and Microsoft's just out there flowing money. It's like yes, we all know Sony's games are great, like,
But
and,
yeah,
you know,
what's
like
that got to do with the actual hardware? You know,
nothing because it's clickbait nonsense, and it's designed to attract PlayStation guys who love hearing about how much Xbox sucks, and then the Xbox guys wanting to read it just to see how awful it is. I mean, it's worked for. There's a lot of content creators here on YouTube that is their go-to. It's not enough to talk about how amazing Sony is. You also have to talk in the same breath or sentence about how shitty Xbox is. And PlayStation fans love to hear that. They love hearing how great PlayStation is and how shitty Xbox is for whatever reason. That's what they love. Like it's and that article really kind of played right to it. But yeah, he doesn't understand like Xbox's focus, that it's not about consoles sold, that it's about people playing. It's about growth opportunities in mobile and on PC. And, you know, the console market hasn't grown in decades. And, you know, the Series X and S are just there to kind of, play. I'm not going to use the right word here. To make their fans happy, but like they obviously don't expect. Like all Microsoft's like future growth is based on like mobile and PC. Sure, they might sell more consoles this gen than last gen, and they probably will. They'll regain some market share. But Microsoft's goal is 3 billion. They want to be everywhere before Amazon and Google really get going. They want to have that insurmountable lead where like by the time Google or Amazon are really kind of into it, like Game Pass has 30 million subscribers. Their first party is already like throwing out games that you need like every couple months. Like they want to be in that situation where like they are the dominant cloud gaming streaming game subscription service, and you know they don't expect to sell as many consoles. And Phil even said that like even if they do start out selling the PlayStation, they're not going to report console sales numbers because it's not important to them. Now you can say that's damage control, like, you know, like blah, 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 blah. But like, as far as their strategy is, it's about people playing, not about consoles sold. But
it's about the upsell. Like the consoles sold doesn't mean anything when your business is upselling on the software, you know. If it doesn't matter if like, you know, I've sold like 1 million consoles, but then like Sea of Thieves sells like 1 billion microtransactions on PC. Like, who cares how many consoles you sold? They're still gonna make the console because there's a whole market of people who just they don't want to put up with the rigmarole of PC. Like, man, I was trying to set up my user interface of World of Warcraft the other day, and it took me like 2 hours to get all my mods working properly in World of Warcraft, and it's just like it's such a different experience to console, and it's like it's not saying it's like a worse experience or anything. I'm just saying like I understand why people wouldn't want to live in that world.
Yeah.
I had a friend saying that an update like wiped his Steam cloud saves or something the other day. I was just thinking how much I take for granted how reliable Xbox Live's cloud save system is and all that sort of stuff. Like, I'd never have to worry about drivers on Xbox. I never have to worry about like, all that other stuff or modding tools or tweaking settings or editing config files, which is something sometimes you have to do for some games. But, you know, that's why a lot of these so-called professional game journalists, they just don't understand the business for whatever reason. Like, either they haven't done their homework or they can't be bothered to do it or they're too busy to do it. I don't know what's going on in their lives, but they just don't get the business anymore. People are so like sales centric. It's not Microsoft's key performance indicator anymore, and it hasn't been for a really long time.
Yeah. Sin Vendetta says, Jazz, the best Warcraft is Warcraft 2, and that is a fact. Thanaros says, S versus X, which one will sell more this holiday? I'm going to say Series X, simply because that's going to be what is... The people buying the console are going to be looking for the Series X. I think S will outsell it eventually overall, but I don't really think they produce many Series S consoles, to be honest. I think they're going to try to control supply so they don't lose, a lot of money. Snazzy Crowd. Let me find what you said here. What do you think was the biggest console launch ever? I'm going to say PlayStation 2, not because of the games, but because of the pre-launch hype. I'm not really sure what the biggest launch ever was. It might have been the PlayStation 4, though the PlayStation 4 I think sold just about as much as the Xbox One did. See, the Xbox One did pretty well up against PlayStation like at the beginning, and then as soon as the holidays ended, it died. It died because it was $100 more expensive, and it had an albatross around its neck called the Kinect. And then what?
Well, this is why like when Phil was on in interviews saying like they're going to sell out regardless. It's because what he's talking about is that hardcore audience who gets in there first and pre-orders. Like, I had so many people who were messaging me like recently, like this week and last week, saying, "Oh, I want to buy an Xbox for my son for Christmas. Where can I buy one?" And I'm like, "Mate, you ain't getting one of those for Christmas. Not now. You should have pre-ordered months ago." But they don't, because they're like normie casuals, So that audience, the way things are going to shift early next year is similarly to what you're going to see with, like you say, like the Xbox One died because we shifted away from the hardcore who were all like all in, and then we went to the normie casual audience who they didn't want the Xbox One.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Gabriel says, we want games from Xbox, not their financial info. Infinite early 2021. You want Halo Infinite information? Jazz, do you think Halo Infinite's coming out next year?
I do.
Do you think it'll come out as a full package, meaning campaign and multiplayer? Or will they split it up and have multiplayer come out next year in a beta form, like you mentioned, and have the campaign come out in 2022? You think that's possible?
If Halo slips all the way to 2022, they need to announce that soon, because, man, I don't know.
So give me an answer here. Do you think it releases in a full state, campaign and multiplayer, or do you think one of those modes launches before the other?
Oh, man, I honestly don't know. I could see it go both ways. I could like, I'm so like, I'm so lacking in faith in 343's leadership that I can totally see the game flopping all the way into 2022 because like what I imagine is going on right now is that someone with authority is actually paying attention to what's going on and not trusting the leadership at 343 and just being like, what the hell are you doing? This is a total mess and this is terrible. It's not fun. Fix it. So if depending on how bad of a state Halo Infinite is in, it could totally slip to 2022. But all we've seen is that, the Craig video. That's all we've seen. And
Well,
what do you think
we'll
of
see?
that?
Do you
Do you
think
think
we'll
that's
see more?
passable?
Do you think it's? You think we got? Look, so obviously, probably XO 2020 or XO 20 is not happening this year, right?
Yeah.
XO happened last year, 2019, roughly right around this time, and they had new trailers from like Grounded was announced, I believe, and Everwild was announced. So there's new game announcements. Now, I don't think we're gonna have a live show. Obviously, Microsoft's not gonna do a live show for a while because of the pandemic. But I'm trying to think, since they haven't announced it yet, it's definitely not happening this month. I don't think. They just did 2 live streams and nothing was really announced there. Jeff Keighley has his awards show coming out in December. So I don't think they have an XO this year. I could be wrong. And if they're not having an XO, maybe some of the announcements that they were planning on revealing get revealed at the VGAs, because that would be everybody's going to be tuned into that. So like I've been saying all year, I think the Initiatives game gets revealed there. And what if they also reveal the multiplayer trailer for Halo? Is that a possibility? We get a Halo trailer during the VGAs for the multiplayer?
I think that's totally possible. But again, it's like it all boils down to, is it ready? Like one of the key criticisms of that Halo footage was that the textures were bad and the graphics were weak. Like, do they really want to show off more Lego game footage? If I love calling it a Lego game, are they really going to show off more Lego game footage if that's what it still looks like? Like, we literally have no idea what kind of state that game is in. So, like,
so you're
I want
of
to
the
believe.
opinion to just hold it.
I want to
until...
believe. I want to believe that it's in a decent state, but this is your flagship franchise from your flagship, everything. This is like right now until you solidify like Bethesda as your best studio, because let's face it, when we've got Elder Scrolls on the docket, Halo ain't no longer the flagship franchise anymore. But until then, like Halo is like your flagship franchise, right? So the next time they show it off, it needs to actually look good and not like a Lego game. And I think if it still looks like a Lego game, they probably should hold it back.
Mm. Yeah, it's. I think it's a possibility, but we'll have to wait and see. DevTech says people forget that Sony groomed their studios until acquired them all. Naughty Dog, Insomniac, and a few others. You purchase studios and then build on them, which is exactly the same thing Xbox is doing. Like they acquired the studios and they're growing them. Wakanda Xbox News today says it's fantastic gaming on all my plastic. Game on, folks. You're 100% right, and I believe that is it. Now. Phil mentioned also, which this kind of got a little retracted. There was a report from Bloomberg that Xbox was going around and going up to Japanese developers, big and small, about being acquired. Right? There was that article from Bloomberg. And then Phil came out a couple days later in a new interview around the launch of the Series X and been like, yeah, like I'm not involved in that stuff. I don't know if that's happening. So he kind of poo-pooed the idea, or at least debunked the idea that they were out there, like with business cards in hands, handing them out to the Japanese developers. But then he said in a different interview that essentially they need a big first party for the gaming subscriptions, and that they're always looking for new acquisitions that fit whatever criteria that fits. So people ask me this, and I'm going to say it again here. They'll buy more studios, 100%. You can take it to the bank. I don't think it'll be anytime soon. I don't think they're going to buy anybody until they get Bethesda properly integrated, and that deal goes through sometime early next year. But whenever that does, they'll probably be on the lookout for other developers to add, because as Game Pass grows and as more people subscribe, you need more content. And just like Netflix, as I said, Netflix owns more studios than pretty much anybody else. 23 studios sounds like a lot, but it's not enough for what Microsoft really wants to do. And if they really are targeting Japan, like that article says, like you're going to need Japanese style games. So you need to talk to Japanese developers. And I would expect at least one of those studios, maybe even two, that they essentially would buy in the years to come to be Japanese so they can make content for that market. And that's where xCloud and Game Pass really come into play. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, one thing that is really going to be interesting is looking at the messaging for the uptake of xCloud in Japan, which is hitting beta. Is it already in beta now, or is it hitting beta soon? I can't remember.
Next week, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's Brazil, Australia, Mexico, and Japan are all joining the xCloud party. I'm really intrigued to see how well that gets taken up in Japan, because obviously Japan has a very good fiber optic infrastructure, more so better than America and Britain, frankly. So probably better 5G infrastructure as well. I don't actually know what the state of 5G is in Japan, but they generally have better internet speeds than us, I believe. And it's sort of, there's always this, and again, I don't know if this is true. I don't like using tropes that are like common narratives that I always hear. But one thing you always hear about Japan is that they prefer to have minimal stuff because the space in the houses is generally less than what Americans get. And I certainly feel that living in my little box. But like, if that is true, there's nothing more minimal than having your entire games library on your phone and or streaming to your TV or whatever down the line. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens there. And if it grows and blows up, maybe Microsoft will finally, after all these years, realize Phil would have done the impossible. Like we talk about Phil saving Xbox. What if Phil cracks Japan? That is like some superhero shit right there, man.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. I mean, I don't think it's possible, but you would need Japanese style games that would only be exclusive to your service, and they only would get that if you made deals or partnerships or you bought somebody. But I mean, it can't be worse than what the Xbox One did. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to buy more studios. Now, will they make a splash like Bethesda again? Like, I know some people are like, buy Sega or buy Capcom or buy EA or Ubisoft. It's like, I don't know, like, that is in the cards, but you can definitely see them buying other independent studios. So, yeah, Tharsman says, I feel Sega would be a good fit for Microsoft if they can buy it. Like Bethesda, they worked together for a long time, longer really, since the Dreamcast. Yeah, the problem with that stuff is like it's a lot of money, and then probably got to get government clearance. And would the Japanese government ever consider a sale of Sega to an American company? Not really sure. But it all's gonna happen. So, but Jazz, you want to hear about my PS5 impressions? You ready for this?
Yeah, go on then.
All right. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell. So, I got my PS5 yesterday. I got the digital edition, which I was lucky, thanks to Amazon for actually sending it to me instead of like other people with the Xbox Series X, where they aren't getting theirs until potentially the end of the year, which sucks. I was immediately struck by how much bigger the box was than the Series X. I posted a picture of it on Twitter. You can see just the difference in the size, and I'm like, okay. So I unboxed everything. Comes with the DualSense controller, and immediately when I picked it up, I'm like, oh yeah, like this build quality is really good. And you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of the DualSense or the DualShock controllers, right? I always kind of felt like the DualShock 4 and the DualShock 3 were essentially Fisher Price toys. Like when I have them in my hands, it's like, man, these just feel flimsy. There's not a lot of weight to them. They feel like little kids' toys. And I'm, of course, not a fan of the symmetrical sticks, and I'm not a fan of that on the DualSense, right? So it's like, But as I'm holding, I'm like, yeah, this feels great to hold, right? It's like, oh, we have a controller that might be on par with the Xbox controller. So I'm like, cool. Comes with USB-C charging thing, which I didn't find right away. So like I'm hooking up the system. I'm like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to plug in the controller? Because I don't see the USB-C cable. But that was there. Obviously HDMI and power cord. And then there's the system itself, and it is massive, Jez. Like, it is huge when you actually get it out of the box, stand it up, and you're just like, wow, this is really a mammoth machine, and it barely fits into my entertainment center. Like, I put on the stand at the bottom, and I'm laying it horizontal because neither of my systems can actually stand up vertically in my entertainment center. So I'm kind of kicking myself in the ass when I bought this entertainment center 2 years ago. Like, I had no clue 2 years ago that I would need an entertainment center, that these systems would be this big standing up vertically. So it's laying horizontal in one of the slots, and it barely fits in there, right? So then I power everything on, and like the startup screen it's all in like 4K HDR. It looks great, and I'm there, and I have the system on, and like to get online to start downloading some games, like Astro Playroom is installed, or whatever you want to call it, but I'm like, well, I want to start downloading Miles Morales and Demon's Souls because I'm game sharing with my buddy on PlayStation, and my buddy had already set up his, and he was downloading all my games like God of War and Days Gone, because I own like almost all the PlayStation exclusives. And because he skipped out on the PS4 gen, Jez. So my buddy got a PS5, skipped out on all the PS4 games, and now has all my PS4 games he can play back and pat. So he's gonna be in heaven because they have a lot of great games, and at least I have someone on the PlayStation side where I can play half price. So, and then I got a little frustrated, Jez. Because I went to download the system update, and it took 4 hours.
Oof.
So I started updating my system at 7 o'clock, and for whatever reason, the system update, which is 880 megabytes, took 4 hours. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this sucks. I want to play my PlayStation, but I need to get online to download all these games. And it took 4 hours to download 800 megabytes, which is weird because, like, on the I have both systems connected wirelessly. Like, I was having no speed issues on the Xbox, like, whatsoever. So, like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the servers. I don't know if it was, like, maybe a bad Wi-Fi card, but it couldn't have been because I downloaded Miles Morales in, like, 10 minutes when I was able to get online. So, yeah, like, okay, the update took forever. And I was just disappointed in that. But I was like, whatever, the one-time update, not a big deal. So finally at like 11 o'clock, I get in, and I, see the user interface, and I'm blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, the user interface, I will say my initial impressions of that aren't great. I think I might like the PS4's better. I don't really think it's very functional. I have some issues with it, but like I haven't used it a lot, so I'm not really going to talk too in depth about the user interface. It does look clean though, because it's 4K HDR. It looks spectacular. But Jez, the big thing that I noticed is I loaded up Astro because I was playing that while Miles downloaded, and I gotta say that DualSense controller is freaking amazing. Kudos to everybody at Sony who built that controller, because it feels so good to hold, and the haptic feedback you get when you're playing Astro and you're walking on snow versus walking on stand, you can actually feel that in the controller. Like, I was sitting there and I was just like, my mind was blown by how much you can feel in the controller, whether it's the triggers and the resistance and how you got to pull and hold those, versus like I'm walking on glass and the vibrations in the controller feel different than I'm walking on ice. And it's something that's really difficult to explain unless you like have the controller and you've experienced it. Now, the Astro game is supposed to be one of those, like, the game that takes advantage of all the haptic controller feedback, and it does have a lot. Like, it even has the sounds coming out of the speakers, and you got to blow into it, And the game itself is free, and it's like a PlayStation love letter. Like, the game is all about PlayStation. It's got some cool cameos, and like the game itself for a free game is pretty enjoyable. It looks great, runs great, and all the like the little like implementations of the DualSense controller are utterly fantastic. Like, I am in love, no joke, with the DualSense controller. I think it's Sony's best controller they ever made. And I kind of wish Xbox had innovated with their controller too. You know, the Xbox controller is very much the same exact controller as the Xbox One. It has the share button. The dynamic latency input is noticeable. I've talked about that in the podcast and in the reviews. Like, I feel it. Things are more responsive. And the Xbox controller is great. It's one of the best controllers ever made. And I always kind of felt the Sony controllers were a step below, not only because of the symmetrical sticks, which I despise and I still don't like on the DualSense, but also because of how the controllers felt in your hands. Well, now I can confidently say that Sony's new controller at least rivals the Xbox controller in terms of like how comfortable it is to hold and the build quality. And then you add the DualSense like features that it has, and it's just like, feels amazing. And I could totally see scenarios where if someone has both consoles and a multi-plat game comes out and it's like, okay, here it is on Xbox, and maybe it runs no different. Like, there's no benefit to being on Series X versus PS5. Like, they run at the same frame rate, they run at the same resolution, blah, 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 and you don't care about trophies and achievements. I could definitely see some people choosing to get the PlayStation 5 version because of the features of the DualSense. Like, to me, it was that impressive, where I was continually like amazed by how great the controller was with those features. But hey,
See, that's why, like, we joke about the whole filmic thing, but that's the kind of thing that appeals to me. Like, what is going to enhance my sense of immersion? And it's things like ray tracing. But it's less so things like 120 frames per second, because I don't know, real life isn't 120 frames per second. So I don't know, the frame rate doesn't really affect my immersion, because, like, I don't know, grew up with 80s movies or whatever. But I'd rather have the picture quality and things like that. The controller haptics, that sounds really exciting, and it does kind of make you think, well, why didn't Microsoft innovate anymore with the inputs? And it kind of makes you think, like, is that because they're focused on PC? Like, would, you know, a PC developer's going to use that? But if everyone across the industry had sort of a common haptics API, like, it'd be cool to see that just become a new standard for gaming. But it would require them to collaborate a bit, wouldn't it? So, I don't know.
yeah.
But that sounds really cool, though.
Yeah, so essentially, really enjoy the controller. Can't wait to play Miles Morales, because it took 4 hours to update, and then when I tried signing into my account, I wasn't getting the 2-factor code, so I had to reset my phone. So that was annoying. So I was all into the PlayStation experience, and it was just frustrating because of how long everything took. But then it was like, man, I really like this Astrobot game, and the controller's really good, but like the user interface is very pretty, but I don't think it's very functional. Like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of the user interface whatsoever. Really.
I saw the NDA for PlayStation 5 reviews, and reviewers weren't actually allowed to talk about some parts of the UI because it's not actually fully finished, is it?
I don't know. It just doesn't. I feel like the one on the PS4 was better, but maybe it's because I haven't used it as much and I need to get like more acquainted with it. Like the Xbox dashboard UI, I know it like the back of my hand. We've been using it for years. Like, it's just everything is exactly where I want it to be and where I know it is. So it's like I can get to anything I want on the Xbox dashboard instantly. With this one, like, I'm more thinking about, okay, what button do I need to press and where is it here, and like all this, like where are the friends and all that stuff. It was just, some of it was just hidden. So yeah, maybe the user interface will definitely take some to get used to. But initial impressions, like, really impressed with the DualSense. best controller Sony's ever made. The jury's still out about whether or not like the features will be supported in most games 2 years from now. Like obviously Sony's first party will support it, but yeah, like the system's huge, like it's massive, like really big. And I wish I was able to play Spider-Man and Demon's Souls, but like I didn't get a lot of time spent with it. So next week it's gonna be more games played. You know, I'll have Astrobot finished and Miles. I'll probably be some in Demon's Souls and then Assassin's Creed and all these games. It's like so many games to play. Like if you're just sitting out there on Twitter and just console warring all day, I don't know if you're an actual gamer, because there's like stuff to play now. Blue Moon FC says, top quality, fellas. Thank you for the support. Darth Paxton says, F, marry, and kill. Undead Labs, Double Fine, and Compulsion. Stay safe and healthy. Man, people love this F, marry, and kill, Jez. Don't they, huh?
Yeah, they do a bit.
Kill. I'll kill Double Fine. No, I'll kill Undead Labs.
What?
I'll kill Undead
No.
Labs. I'll marry Compulsion, and I'll F Double Fine. I don't know. I know you love Undead Labs, so you're probably marrying them, huh?
Yeah, marry Undead Labs. I would sleep with Double Fine because they've got sex appeal, and Compulsion just does nothing for me. So, buy Compulsion. Compulsion has so much to prove this gen for me.
Yeah. Sergeant 13 wants me to tell everybody how long the battery lasts. I mean, I played Astrobot for maybe an hour and it seemed fine. I know it's supposed to last like anywhere between 6 to 10 hours, and that 2-hour battery thing was maybe a defective controller. So we'll see. I mean, I haven't had to charge my controller, but I only got to play like an hour. So really impressed with the controller. Like, it's honestly one of those things that it's hard to describe, that you need to feel it yourself. And me and Colt Eastwood, we were in the same party chat, and we were playing Astro at the same time, and he was really impressed with the controller. Like, you can just, it's so weird that like you can, the Astrobot walks on glass, and it feels different when he's walking on sand and different than when he walks on ice. Like, you can actually feel the differences in the vibrations, and it feels like it should. It's really tough to describe, but. And that's maybe a marketing problem Sony has, because how do you describe something like that is like all about feel, right? It's all about how something feels in your hands. It's not something you can see. So they definitely have like a marketing, problem there to solve, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like one of those features that, like, if they're talking about it in an advert, it would sound like fake. So,
yeah,
I guess you need people, to actually describe it in YouTube videos and stuff. I don't know.
Zeke. So Zeke, I know you're really enthusiastic, but don't spam in chat, because I'll just time you out. He wants me to ask you about Kevin Spacey, but this is your last warning. Don't constantly spam chat asking the same thing over and over. And if any of the mods are listening, if he does that again, just time him out. Don't ban him, but like, it's annoying to see one person say the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't know why you want to have Jez ask about Kevin Spacey, because like, what's the point? Who cares about Kevin Spacey? Right?
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I think that'll be the podcast. I know we went over what Jez wanted to do. Do you want to take questions, or you just want to end, Jez?
No, we can take questions. That's cool.
Yeah. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So I just want to thank everyone for being here on a Friday. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, notification bell if you always want to be notified right away whenever we do a podcast, and follow me and Jez on Twitter. Everything's on screen. But we thank you, and hope you enjoyed the show. And Jay Wayday says, hey, does Xbox plan to upgrade the game capture suite? It still sucks. Work some magic, Jez.
Yeah, that's one area of the dashboard that I've had so many issues with lately. Like when it gets confused because the dashboard doesn't support HDR, but the game clips do. or something, or 4K or something. But basically, it's like the dashboard gets confused, and it's like, oh, should I be 4K now or not? And like when you try and play back a clip, it like can get stuck, or it can crash, or it can freeze, and it's just really, really poorly designed, poorly optimized system that really needs an overhaul. And then like, don't even get me started about Upload Studio and actually
Upload
having
Studio's
features.
gone.
Yeah, it's I know,
And like
but
it's just the way that they designed whatever systems they designed. Like 4K only record in 30 seconds. 1080p they reduced it from 3 minutes on the One X to 1 minute, but they increased the bit rate. And like on the One X, it recorded 1080p at 8 megabits per second at 30 frames. On the Series X, it records it at 1080p 60 frames per second, and like I think like 16 megabytes per second bit rate. So they increased it there, and then 720p at 3 minutes. So they reduced that from 5 on the One X. And what are you gonna do? Like it's probably a feature that they're very data driven by. As we know, Microsoft is a very data driven company, and they probably see not many people recording in 4K. Just like not many people used Upload Studio, and they're like, what's the point, right? Why bother doing this stuff? So
they're probably like they probably got data that most people don't even use game capture. Probably.
no, a lot of people do use Game Capture, but I think most people use it in 1080p or 720. I don't think most people use it 4K, and I would imagine
But the thing
outside of
is, it defaults out to 4K though.
oh, does it?
Yeah, it does. It does on the Series X, but like it just doesn't work properly. Like if you have to put it at a lower res and turn off HDR if you want it to work properly. Even if you put HDR on, you get like these horrible washed out clips that look terrible.
That's weird
If you upload them,
because I recorded it. I set it to 4K SDR, and I still had HDR on, and the clips look amazing.
no, I mean if you have HDR turned on for the capture, it looks terrible.
Oh well, but wouldn't you need an HDR device to play it back to make it look like it's supposed to?
Well, yeah, exactly. But you don't have a HDR device on Twitter and stuff. And like when it converts the clip for Twitter, it doesn't bring across the HDR encoding, so it
Oh
looks washed out and terrible. And if you upload it to OneDrive, it looks washed out and terrible. So like you're basically forced to turn HDR off,
yeah,
which is fine. But then why have it in the first place? It's just a mess. It really is just a mess. A lot of the dashboard like needs a lot of polish, and like we just have to wait for them to sort it out. I'm sure they've got their work cut out, like fixing loads of different stuff right now. It's always different when you're testing things with a small amount of people internally, and then you ship it out to the world, and you just find all this stuff that's broken.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it happens with games as well. JWack says, "Hey, Microsoft Studio, you're most excited for next gen, including ZeniMax." I'll say one. Arcane Studios.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think I stole Jez's answer. I know Jez is gonna be like Undead Labs or what something.
Well, I would say Arcane Studios, but like I don't think their next game is Deathloop the next one.
Deathloop comes out in May, but
I just don't like the look of that. Um,
there
but
there are rumors that the other Arcane team is working on either Dishonored 3 or Prey 2 or something.
well, I hope that's true. I really, really do. Um, I am cautiously optimistic about Undead Labs because you know State of Decay 2 has like this amazing gameplay hook, but it's really janky even now after several years of updates. Still really janky game, with really poor animations and stuff like that. I would really like to see Undead Labs step out of that sort of double A level and go all the way to triple A. And that pre-rendered trailer surely does suggest that they're trying to, be more impressive cinematically. I don't think you make that kind of trailer unless you're trying to, make a statement. Mind you, Microsoft done it before with like Recore and stuff like that and Phantom Dust. So I don't know. Do you remember that Phantom Dust CGI trailer
I
from like years
remember.
ago?
And then the game
It
got
looked really
canceled.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they
And
canceled the game. So,
yeah, and the
whoops.
leaked footage didn't look anywhere near as good as that trailer did. So I don't know. You could just never trust Microsoft's marketing. So when it comes to that stuff, so I don't know. I want to believe in State of Decay, but I'm honestly mostly excited about Obsidian. I want to see if like Grounded is just amazing, and what they've done with such a small team is so impressive. And then like if their main team is working on Avowed, which is supposedly like similar to Skyrim in the Pillars universe, that's just a dream. So
Yeah. Christopher Riley says, "Is it okay to use any USB-C cable with my Series X controller?"
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm using like the USB-C cable that came with the Elite Series 2 on the PS5 because like the USB-C cable you get from PlayStation is like short. It's not very long, and like the one the Xbox gives with the Series or the Elite Series 2 is super long. So that's the one I'm gonna use with my PlayStation. Um, Alex wants to know, did you hear about the Series S disk drive problems we have? You've heard about them, right, Jez? The disk drive issues.
Yeah, earlier when you were talking about not having a disc to test it out with, I actually like went and found a Blu-ray and tested my disc drive out, and my disc drive actually works fine, thank God. But it does seem like a lot of people are having issues with it.
Yeah,
Ah, man.
Microsoft usually like this seems most of their consoles have some sort of disk drive issue. Crazy Greek Dude says, Rand, how do you like the impulse triggers? Oh, they're pretty good. I mean, I don't know if I would like them in something like Call of Duty where like they're harder to press down to shoot, but the way Astrobot has them implemented is pretty cool. And that's the thing about the controller is like are the DualSense is it going to be a gimmick? And that's only going to be answerable in a couple years because if Sony's first party is the only one who's using it, then yeah. If the third party don't stop, if they stop using it, then they will. But like as of right now, I'm really impressed with the controller. I think it's Sony's best controller they ever made, and you need to feel it for yourself. At least I was really impressed by it. I mean, obviously everybody has their own opinions, and maybe some people were less impressed or thought it was a gimmick or whatever. I think it's pretty cool. Ralph Ligum says, "Thank you, Jez, for retweeting my Randall Sock Xbox Series X montage. Great show, guys."
Man, so many people have tweeted socks at me recently.
Jeez.
I need to check the Teespring and announce how much we've raised for charity. Like
You should check.
Teespring takes so much of the money that it's not going to be very much, but it's just cool. You're a famous tomorrow, man.
Bum Hater says, "Why does Jez always disregard all the good games the Series X, that Xbox Game Studios brings out? For example, Ori 2, Flight Sim, or Forza Horizon 4. Yeah, Jez, why are you always so negative about everything?"
I don't like racing games. Don't like
doesn't.
flying
He
games,
doesn't.
and yeah, and Ori's great. In fact, look out in our Game Awards, which is coming this weekend, for some accolades for Ori.
Forza Horizon 4 is one of the best racing games ever made and looks great on the Series X. It's hard to really like be excited if you don't like racing games. It's hard to be excited about a racing game, though. You know what I mean?
It's just like when Microsoft tries to do something outside of their proven wheelhouse, which is basically Forza simulators, Age of Empires. We all know Age of Empires is going to be good. We all know that Flight Simulator was going to be good. But like when it comes to games that are more complicated or cinematic or need to have like actual layered gameplay systems, they always seem to drop the ball. And I just want to see them not drop the ball for once.
Yeah. Nathan Nuke wants to say, when do you think the Series X will start performing better than the PS5? Well, that's a loaded question. Could be never. Could be in a year or two. I mean, who knows? I'm not a tech guy. I couldn't tell you the answer to that question. Um,
Yeah, some people seem upset about that, but it is
um,
what it is.
Riley wants to know, does the Series S come with the USB-C cable for the controller? No. The Series X and the Series S do not come with USB-C cables. They come with 2 AA batteries. And if you're so inclined, you can purchase a plug-and-play kit for like $25 that comes with a rechargeable Xbox battery and a USB-C cable, right, Jez? I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they expect, like most people, have USB-C cables from their phones and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen, like, Apple doesn't even include the charger anymore?
Nope, of course not. And people still love it. And they changed it from the USB charging to like lightning port or whatever. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Dr. Vortex says, I've got my Series X today. Which game would you recommend to play first? Thinking about Monster Hunter. Well, Jez would say absolutely. I would say it depends on what you want to play. Do you want to buy something? Do you want to play something in Game Pass? I think Tetris Effect is a cool game that looks amazing. Valhalla is like certainly what I envision next gen to be like at 60 frames. Ori 2 is freaking stunning with its Series X upgrade. You know, if you like racing games, Forza Horizon 4 is the pinnacle. There's a lot of stuff there to choose. It all depends on like what you are looking for, I guess.
It also depends on your TV as well. Like, if you want to experience true next gen and push the FreeSync on your TV, 120 frames per second and stuff like that, then you need to pick one of the 120 frames games.
Yeah.
There's a fair bit of a variety.
Blue Moon FC says, what was the topic of your first podcast together? I believe our first topic was, I don't remember, Jez. What was it? Do you recall? All the way back in like March or April of 2017, I think, was when we first did one.
I have no idea. I can't even remember last week. So don't ask me that question. We could look it up, couldn't we?
I think maybe we did something talking about Digital Foundry and the breakdown of the series of 1X, maybe? I'd have to go back and look.
No idea. Was that just after I leaked that Digital Foundry was going to have a hands-on?
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was very funny. 2Player wants to know, are Xbox going to fix the mess? What is Xbox All Access in the UK? It's not been available to order since the first pre-order. I mean, I don't know, bro.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. I actually got an email from a company that seems to be taking over the whole financing thing for Xbox All Access, because in the UK there's this financing company called Klarna that Samsung use. So like you can buy like a Samsung phone via Klarna and get it like on a monthly subscription. And Microsoft used them, and apparently they're usually pretty good, but they really screwed up with Xbox. And it actually went on and hurt a load of people's credit rating. So because like how badly Klarna screwed up, I think Microsoft might have dropped them because they've partnered with another company now, and Everything Everywhere and a bunch of other mobile carriers are going to let you have the Xbox Series X on a contract through like a phone carrier. So I think that's the way they're going through with it now. I think they just switched the financing company because of how much Klarna screwed it up. So watch this space. I'll look into it.
Rick wants to know, do you guys think that PS Now can be a rival to xCloud? Because till this day it isn't available in Brazil. I mean, it could, although it's been around for a while, and it really depends. Like, if Sony really wants PlayStation Now to rival xCloud, they have to put their games into the service way sooner than they do. And honestly, I think it could. Like, if you were to imagine, like, if Demon's Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales were in PS Now day one, like, how many millions of people would immediately sign up? And then if you put something like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War 2 into PlayStation Now day one, considering how many copies both those franchises have sold, you could be at you could potentially have more subscribers than Game Pass really quickly, because a lot of people love, the PlayStation exclusives. But the way they're going about it now, I don't think so. Like they would have to put their first party into xCloud day one. The Coffee Pie wants to ask us, hey, will you please inform us when there is a monitor that takes full advantage of the Series X? I'm gonna imagine
there are some. I think LG and Samsung, I want to say. I think they do some 4K 120 hertz monitors, but they are really expensive. And I don't know. If you search on Google for best Xbox Series X monitors, Windows Central, I actually think Matt might have wrote an article about it. So you can have a look there, see if there's anything on there that he researched.
Let's see. Zeke wants to know if we'll see Initiative's game at the Game Awards. I mean, I've been pretty much saying all year that, or at least most of the year, that I thought it would be at the Game Awards. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just, if you were planning on revealing the game this year and you didn't reveal it at the July Game Showcase, and there isn't some XO20 where you could reveal it, I think the Game Awards, especially for the type of talent that team has, like people from all over some of the great studios here in the video game industry, like that would be something you'd want to make a splash at the VGAs. We're definitely going to get, I think we're definitely 100%, whether it's the Initiative's game or not, but we're going to see a new game announcement from Xbox Game Studios at the VGAs. You can count on it. Maybe we see two. Maybe they revealed the Initiative's game and Compulsion's game. Phil talked about both of those recently. So,
I want to see Hellblade 2 gameplay, man.
Man, so do I. Let's see here. East Coast says, so now we have to wait to see any in-game difference between the Series X and PS5 and actually have some good exclusives. That's a bummer. I mean, I don't know. I didn't talk much about the tech stuff. You guys know that. Like, it all comes down to developers and how, how much time they've had with the SDKs and stuff like that. Like, we definitely saw some with the Xbox One X. Like, Red Dead Redemption 2 looked better and played better on the Xbox than it did PlayStation. There are some developers that will give it their all and make the games run better on the hardware, and there's some that don't. And I think launch being what it was, with Microsoft saying, hey, our dev units didn't go out as early as PlayStation's because we waited for full RDNA 2 and everybody working from home, like it's entirely possible that they weren't, they didn't understand or feel as good about the SDK as PlayStation's. I don't know. It kind of goes back to that question Faced asked earlier about if it's a big deal, but I don't really think it is. And I think Xbox assumes or thinks that the advantages they have in the hardware will become more apparent as the generation goes on. And that'll be something we'll have to see. But like you said, I'm more interested in the exclusives. Like, I'm just happy that the Series X is a awesome gaming machine. And now I'm just waiting for Microsoft's first party to get their shit together and start pumping out some quality games. That's it. Now I don't gotta worry. Like, you had to worry about the hardware with the Xbox One. The hardware was pretty bad. And sure, you had exclusives, like Rise and stuff like that, but they weren't rated very well. And then the exclusives went away, and the bad hardware was still there until the One X came out. So, let's see here. I think that'll be it, because I know Jez is getting a little tired. We were supposed to have a shorter show today, but there's too much here to talk about. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching the show. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow me and Jez on Twitter. You can see the links in the description or on screen. You got anything to say before we get out of here, Jez?
No, man. Just congrats if you got an Xbox or a PlayStation this week, and have fun. Game on.
Yeah. Well, make sure if you guys did get a Series X or a PS5, make sure you tag me on Twitter. I like seeing people's excitements about the next gen. I like all those posts. They're pretty cool to me. And we'll be back next Friday talking about more games and more industry news. So until then,